Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
We have a Super Bowl matchup.
I'm not excited about it.
It's the worst possible matchup
Not at
we
all.
could have.
Not at all.
Awful Super Bowl match. On a 1 to 10, what do you guys have it?
0.
I have it a 1.
I
I can't go lower.
Dang, y'all hated that much?
Oh, it's awful. It's all. I have no. I'm just going to watch for the commercials.
Oh, everybody's going to watch.
That's it.
Y'all
I'm so sick of both teams. I hate both teams.
I do too.
I will be rooting for the Eagles because I'm sick of the Chiefs more, but man.
Yeah, the Chiefs. At some point, you kind of root for history.
I don't.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't understand that argument.
I love it.
If you want to.
I love to watch history.
Nate Burleson's up on his high horse telling people they got to root for history. You have to root for
Well, no,
history.
you can't tell
Why?
someone what to root for.
Yeah.
I can tell people what I root for.
Fine, and you have every right to do
I
that.
wanna
I got
root
no
for
problem
history.
with that. I always root against dynasties.
And I've got no problem with that.
Hey, the Eagles got to channel their New York Giants when the Patriots walked in there 19-0.
Exactly.
You got to channel that. You got to somehow or what's the game? Or the Eagles the second time they beat the Patriots, they had no business winning that game either. None. Like so, they better channel that.
I watch for the commercials. I'll root for Kansas City because I do want to see history. Oh, I want to set the record straight. Bernie Kosar is still with us.
Yeah, it's big news.
What happened?
Some Miami Hurricanes fan site tweeted Bernie's obituary.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah. I mean, that's a fail. You should lose your Twitter account for that. You should literally lose it.
Jay,
Done.
facts don't matter anymore.
Done.
It doesn't. People say whatever they want now. On social media.
Here's the pain this caused. I
Yeah.
talked to Bernie this morning. He's been fielding calls all morning from people thinking he passed away.
You know how many people done pulled up on him and text him, "You good?" It has to be
when I heard
thousands.
him answer the phone, the whole time it was ringing with each
Yeah.
additional ring, I'm like, oh no.
This is right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And then he finally picked up, and my heart started beating again.
I do think it's funny that a lot of people called him, even though they thought he might be dead.
Well, I did.
I mean,
I'm like,
how we gonna
what the hell's
verify?
going on here?
How we gonna verify this? How you
Well,
verify?
I thought maybe Anna would answer.
Right.
I mean, if I
sure.
died, I'm sure my wife would start answering my phone and saying, yeah,
oh.
it was an awful thing.
Oh, that would even be even
He
worse.
just didn't wake up.
That's even worse.
I guess,
Yeah.
I guess, because you'd have to do that. It'd be the last thing you'd want to do. But I literally, it was, if you look at the tweet, it looks 1,000% legitimate. We're in mourning of the passing of 61-year-old former Hurricane Bernie Kosar. There's a link. It was awful. It was just awful. But
People are the worst.
I spoke to him in typical Bernie fashion. He was able to laugh. And he said, I'm super excited to be alive this morning. Imagine reading, "We mourn the passing of Garrett Bush." Imagine reading that line. You're like, uh-oh. What happened?
Listen, the speculation would start immediately. Let me see. Was it the neck? Was it the back? He take a lot of medication. I don't know what's going on. Did he have the diabetes?
Diabetes.
The big D got him.
He got him like
Pause.
Paul. Oh wow. Ooh.
Jay, by the way, I'm looking at the tweet that was screenshotted. Bernie tweeted, by the way, "Hey, just so y'all know I'm alive." So shout out to Bernie, having a little levity here.
Yeah, Bernie's alive,
The
baby.
headline of this article was "Rest in peace, Miami Hurricanes legend Bernie Kosar. NFL world mourns as legend passes away a few minutes later."
That sounds legitimate.
People do. Put
That
fabric,
sounds
that's all it
super
is.
legit.
But I can't click on the link because it's a screenshot of it. You have to have some, if you're going to put a title of NFL world mourns, then you have some reaction to other people tweeting about Bernie allegedly
Like,
passing
people don't
away.
care. There's
Yeah.
no interest in facts anymore. There's no interest in anything. It's just-
Apparently, and I don't know this. I didn't click on the link. Someone just sent me the text, the screenshot, and I didn't even see Bernie's rebuttal.
Yeah.
I just saw a screenshot of the original tweet.
Right.
So, and I couldn't tell from the text where it came from. So I couldn't go to Twitter and look at it.
Right.
So
It was a Facebook post. That's why.
Oh, well, that explains that.
Can you imagine, Jay, 3 to 5 years ago, this would have not been possible. You couldn't even have said this. And if you would have said this, there would have been repercussions, massive repercussions, because Twitter, for one point in time, was a place where actual news was broken.
It used to be.
It used to be where, if it was tweeted and it was there, it was verifiable.
Now, all of that being said, there was still plenty of stuff up there that was true.
computed.
But it's not as bad as it
Here's
is
the
now.
thing. No one has the bandwidth to police 75 million accounts.
Yeah, it's just
you just can't do that.
Right, but
now when you're made aware of it,
Yeah.
it's to be pulled down. And I think they have. This was Facebook, so it's a different situation.
I'm on the page.
but,
It has been pulled down.
I would hope so. There's community notes that they have now, which is basically a fact check, and then they'll put a community note on there. But the original message stays, and I just think that's a whole other can of worms. That's where we are today, though. Someone put that out there, and a lot of people believed it. And it caused Bernie a lot of pain, obviously, because a lot of people that he cares deeply
that's
about
crazy.
thought that Bernie Kosar had passed away. I'm super glad to report he did not. We're going to talk about the NFL Championship games. We're going to preview a little bit, look ahead at the Super Bowl, what we expect from that. Cavs, wow, we knew it was coming, but this is a skid that I don't think many of us saw coming. 3 straight losses, 5 in the last 8. I don't recognize the team. I don't recognize them anymore. The last 4 games, as I'm watching them, I'm like, the quick passes, the ball movement, it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
And Mike, I don't know if it was originally when we talked about this the first time. Okay, there's the blueprint. Well, the blueprint is out, and teams are using it, and they are not the same team that we saw the first couple of months of the season. We're going to talk about that. CC Sabathia on in 23 minutes.
Yeah.
To talk about his induction into the Hall of Fame later this summer. We're thrilled for CC about that. He's going to join us, and we're going to talk Shedeur Sanders not participating in the Scout Bowl. You can call it whatever you want. This is the game where all the NFL scouts love to go and check these guys out against other elite NFL competition, NFL-ready competition. So we'll talk about all that. Mikey?
Yeah, and one thing you missed is we're going to talk Kareem Hunt. That'll be in here somewhere. It's gonna. Bull has been arguing with people on Twitter. He's ready to unleash some thoughts on Kareem Hunt. So we'll get to that after we talk to CC Sabathia at 11:30. But we start with the Cavaliers, and if you want to see the Cavs tonight, live in action at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse taking on the Detroit Pistons. Game Time better be the app you use to get your tickets online. The Game Time Picks feature filters out fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Ant has the Game Time app up right now. Ant, what is the cheapest get-in price for tonight's Cavs-Pistons game on the Game Time app?
Tonight, section 205, $6 a ticket.
It's a steal. Get in, $6. Go check out the Cavs as they try to snap a 3-game losing streak. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Mike, that means if you use that code, they're going to pay you $14 and give you a free ticket to go to the next game.
I think there has to be a certain
a minimum.
I think they're not going to pay you to. I don't think it works like that.
Can't imagine. If they are, let's go.
But
we'll
that
pocket
is with-
$14 and see the game.
Game Time does have the toggle feature where you can turn on the fees, so you know the full price when you're looking at it, and that might be what Ant was just looking at. $6 total.
Can we check on the Super Bowl price for the next read?
Yeah, we'll
I'm
do that for the
curious
next
to see
read.
what those tickets are going for.
Absolutely. But let's dive right into the Cavs, guys. Jay, you mentioned it a second ago. They have lost 3 games in a row, 2 to Houston. On Friday, they lost to the Philadelphia 76ers. They are 3-5 in their last 8 games. They are 7-5 in the month of January. They have fallen 1 game behind the Oklahoma City Thunder for the best record in the NBA. They are still, however, the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, a 4.5-game lead over the Boston Celtics. On the season, they are 36-9, but just 7-5 in January. Jay, G, Bull, in your opinion, what is going wrong for the Cavs of late, and can it be fixed?
Intoxication.
Reading their headlines.
Intoxication. Offense is intoxicating. When you start to see, all these 3-point shots go in, you starting to see people come in and the flow of the offense, and you're putting up 150 points, and you're putting up this amount of points, and you're so efficient. What you start to do is you start to get intoxicated on the offensive end of the court, and you don't realize that you're giving up 135 on the other end. You realize that to get to the offensive end of the court, you got to secure a rebound. You know, Mikey knows this. What does coaches in basketball always tell you?
Box out, you win.
Hey, if you don't secure the rebound, that's how you start offense. When you're doing that one out drill where the ball goes on the backboard and you boxing people out, that's the fundamentals of the game. When you watch these games, you see people turning the basket back to the basket, not blocking their man out. You see guys allowing cutters. You see guys that are not, you know, being tough on the initial cut, or actually being at the tip of the sword, being like, hey, I got to take some individual one-on-one pride that I can't be letting guys waltz to the rim. And what you start to see is when you're giving up that many points, you realize, well, wow, we can't get stops. You watch the game against the Houston Rockets. They dwindle the league down to in the single digits, and what you start to see is every time they get close, there's a walk to the rim. Every time somebody get close, there's an open 3-point shot. And what they have to understand is you're not talented enough like that to get away with just outscoring people. You guys got to remember, you got to do it on both sides of the court, and as well, the physicality. The physicality has not been there. They've been getting bullied on the boards. Evan Mobley was out a little bit. But another thing that we have not seen, we saw earlier in the season, is working through the bigs, then getting the ball out, swinging it to other people, working inside out, making sure the bigs can pass to each other. I haven't seen that. The offense is stagnant. It's been a lot of ISO. It's been a lot of dribble. A lot of old stuff seeping in. And the best part about this is I like what Evan Mobley said. And they interviewed him. I like the fact that he said everything ain't going to be great. And this is a reminder that you're not going to come out here and just roll this basketball out and win these games. I'm glad they lost 3 in a row. I'm glad they hit this skid, because sometimes you get intoxicated with your own press clippings and how people is treating you. You were the darling in the NBA for about a month here, but guess what? This is January, and you're 7-5. So it's time to make some adjustments and get an attitude adjustment, boo.
You know, I'm not worried about this at all.
At all?
No. It's January. I mean, I'm going to admit that because the Cavs are not and no longer on pace for any kind of a all-time special season, my interest has waned a little bit. And I'm back to my old mindset of I don't care that much about the regular season. But I'm still watching the games, even though I'm not feeling as passionate about it.
Right.
The reason I'm not worried about it is because it's the middle of the season. I think we all should have realized, and I'm going to blame Mike here because he was overhyping the team. He's mostly to blame.
Wow. Mike was the only one.
The only person in the grade and the whole entire NBA.
The rest of us don't know what the hell we're talking about. Mike does, and he let us all down. You let us all down, Mike, I got to say.
That's blasphemous.
Taking bullets, man.
That's blasphemous.
The team, listen, we knew the Cavs were going to be good coming into the year. We didn't know how good. They played amazing basketball the first 35, 40 games, whatever it was. But we should have known that this team, as good as it is, didn't belong in the conversation with the all-time great teams.
Wait, I got a couple off. Hold on. Well, one time when you were in Jay's chair, you were sitting there, and I think I was on the panel. You asked the question, who will lose more games in 2025, the Cavs or the Browns? You were the one insinuating that.
I remember him asking that.
Yeah, and we put it in. You were the one insinuating this team was on a historic rate.
I know, but I don't know crap about basketball. You do. You're supposed to be better than me, Mike.
So
what the hell do I know about
I picked the Cavs.
His lack of knowledge exonerates him.
It exonerates me.
Your knowledge implicates you.
Yes.
I was right. I said
known.
the Cavs would lose more games than the Browns. And so far, looks like I'm going to be right here.
And
you're going to be right.
I don't think things are as bad as they are right now. And they're playing sloppy. Evan Mobley's missed some of the games. He just came back this last game. He's very important to what they do. And at this point, I'm like, all right, it matters because you want to hold on to the 1 seed. To me, that's all that matters now, is holding on to the one seed. I don't care what their final record is.
Oklahoma City now has, for the first time this year, a better record.
Yes, and I'll tell you something else. I think this takes G said, they needed some losing, whatever. I think part of that is now I think if there was any pressure to not make a trade because of the chemistry or whatever, that's out the window. I don't know that there ever was any such thing.
I like that.
But like all the fans that were saying, don't mess with this team, well, that's out the window. You got to try to improve the team if you can. Hopefully they can. We'll see. They're not a perfect basketball team, but they've played great most of the year. They're in a slump. I think they'll bounce back here sometime soon and play better. But yes, since Mobley got hurt especially, they've gone back to playing more ISO ball, which is less fun to watch and has been less successful. Hopefully that won't continue with Mobley back.
Yeah, I think the first 45 games was not a mirage. 40 games, whatever it was. That wasn't a mirage. That was real. We saw it. We watched it with our own eyes. But this is where my concern raises to a level higher than yours. You're at a 0 on the 0 to 10. I'm at a 3.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. And I could go to a 4 if they lose tonight. Tonight's a game that matters. In the standings, it's just another game. It might as well be Houston. It might as well be Philly, whatever. But this one matters because what JB has done in Detroit is almost miraculous. They've already won more games there this year than they won all of last year. He's doing there what he did here. He's taking a group of young kids, making them believe in themselves. He's given them a system, and they've bought in, and they're winning. I think that the Cavs players tonight should go out there with motivation to show, one, we're more the team that was the first 35 games, 40 games of the season than the last 12. So that's reason of motivation. And also, if you lose to JB, that's just a bad look on everybody. It's a bad look on the players. It's a bad look on the coach. I know it's only one game, but it does matter. People will talk about that. You also want to put this behind you as quickly as you can, and I think you want to do it before the All-Star break. You don't want this losing feeling to linger through the All-Star break. I think that can be bad. But again, I think somewhere in the middle lies the truth. They're not a 33-5 team, and they're not a 7-5 team. They're somewhere in between. They're a very good basketball team. The point that I agree with most that you made is it is critical this team gets the one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If they don't get the one, they're not going to the finals.
But if they do, none of this mattered.
You're right.
Right?
No.
If they lose to the Pistons tonight and they finish in the 1 seed, it didn't matter.
Didn't matter at all. They can finish tied and have the tiebreaker, and all of this is for naught.
The only way this slump matters is if it costs them the 1 seed.
That's ultimately. Exactly right, and my hope is that it won't. Yeah. Mike, on the eye test, I'm watching a brand of basketball that barely resembles what I saw the first 35 games. All the quick passes that we saw, we still see it here and there, but that was their trademark. That was what we saw almost every possession. Now it just seems like they're throwing it in neutral, and they're waiting for the ball handler to either find himself a shot or find one open man. And it's just not as exciting, and it's not the winning formula.
Yeah, with Mobley back, their shot profile should go back a little more to what we had seen prior. I asked Kenny before the game on Saturday if he felt the Cavs had become too jump shot reliant without Mobley. And his answer was, and I'm quoting, hell no. And he went on to say, we're the best three-point shooting team in the league. The numbers bear that out. As long as we're getting good looks, we're going to miss some here and there. We're going to make others. We like the quality of the shot over necessarily the forcing bad attacks at the rim because we want more shots in the paint. But it's not the offense. Even in January, Steve, go up one graphic here. Go up one graphic to January. They are 7-5 in January, right?
Yeah.
In the month of January, where do you think they rank in terms of offensive rating? They're number one in the league overall, by the way. Number one in the league overall. Where do you think they rank offensively in the month of January?
Oh, offensively.
Offensively. I'll get to defense.
Offensively, I would say they're probably
like 2.
Still pretty high.
G nailed it. They're number 2.
Yeah.
The offense has not been the issue.
Not at all.
Despite the fact it doesn't look as pretty, Jay, despite the fact that the shot profile is not the same, they still have the second best offensive rating in basketball. It's literally 0.1 percentage points. It's 121.2 versus 121.3 for the season. Almost identical. Mm-hmm. The issue is what G alluded to earlier is on the defensive side of the ball. Steve, you want to go down? We'll run through the numbers real quick, but they're averaging, allowing
Wow.
118.3 points per game. That's 26 in the NBA in the month of January. Not every team's played 12 games. Some have played 13, some 11, but this is for the entire month. Their defensive rating, 28th. Opposing teams are shooting nearly 49% from the floor against them in January. It's the 25th worst mark in basketball. They're shooting almost 39% from three.
Mike,
and to G's point about rebounding, they have played some super athletic teams, which Houston's the number one rebounding team in basketball. And without Mobley, but if you're allowing teams to shoot that well and they're getting a ton of offensive rebounds, that's near the bottom third of the league, that is a recipe for disaster. And you have to be so much better offensively to counter out that.
By the way, the fact that Mike keeps using the term shot profile, that nobody else would use that term besides a basketball nerd, proves once again that he's to blame for the overhype. I mean, this is the ongoing theme throughout the situation.
I like that term, though.
It's a great term, but only a basketball nerd would use that term, Mike, correct? No random fan is saying bad shot
I don't
profile.
know. I only hang out with basketball nerds.
I'm going to tell you this, though. There's one thing.
But you know what I mean? Real quick. Does anyone not know what I mean when I say shot
No,
profile?
that's why I like it. No, you don't need to. It explains itself.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use words that I think people get and maybe
it's like
they
for
don't,
a pitch profile. We know what that means.
The Cavs, I believe, have shot over 40% from three games in a row and lost. Like, that can't happen very often.
Because I keep trying to tell y'all, guess who? See, look, when they was balling out and they was number one in offense and like number two in defense, guess what? Who wasn't playing? You got Max Strus is getting a whole lot of minutes. His minutes is way up. Here's the problem.
Well, they've had a lot. They have a number of guys banged up.
I get you, but here's your problem that you're gonna have in the playoffs. 6'2", 6'2", 6'3".
Well, they got to make a trade.
Yeah, no, that's a problem.
Hey Mike,
that's your three guards. So if you and then you playing George Niang a lot. George Niang is a undersized power forward. If I say he's 6'6", I'm giving him a couple inches.
He's bigger than 6'6",
Boy,
isn't he?
man, he is a C6.
G-Bush is always trying to make Niang shorter.
George Niang is...
Don't criticize Niang. He's very sensitive.
He is nuts.
Niang?
Yeah.
He's 6'6", 6'7".
There it is. He is. So you got a 6'2" in Garland, a 6'2" in Mitchell, a 6'3" and a quarter, maybe, with Max Strus, and George Niang at 6'6". When you got long athletic wings and you got guys you playing against the Rockets, and you got guys that are athletic, you got guys that are big, they're getting the ball in the paint, they're getting extra rebounds, and you're getting destroyed. Yes, you have a nice three-point lineup, but if them threes ain't falling, you're not going to win because you're not going to win the battle on the boards. You're not going to keep anybody in front of you, and those guys are going to get 140 points on this end.
That's the key. Yeah. I mean, with that small of three guys in there at that height, a hand in the face isn't really a hand in the face; it's a hand in the chest.
Mike, let me ask you this. I'm curious.
What's up, Bo?
Is their struggles on defense recently have more to do with, because my thought is it has more to do with, let's face it, they've faced much better competition the last
That's
month.
a big part of it, yeah.
I think it's more about that than the actual players on the Cavs playing worse defense.
I think it's a little of
probably
all of it.
both, but don't you think that's a big factor?
It's definitely a factor, and it's hard to quantify a specific number that indicates that teams are shooting better from three against them. They were shooting below league average in the first 2 months of the season. They're above. That's just kind of natural ebbs and flows of a season without Mobley in a few games, and I think this kind of stood out in that 3-game stretch that he wasn't there. Mobley and Allen kind of hide a lot of the defensive deficiencies from the backcourt because, hey, it's one thing to blow by whoever's out there, but then you got to finish over Evan and Jarrett.
That's a tough line to
And
get through.
especially when they're together, that's a nightmare. So that hides a lot of the lack of necessarily individual perimeter defense because it's not the worst thing in the world if you get beat because then they have to score over 2 6'10", 7-footers who are both really good at protecting the rim.
What does Kenny say the problem is?
I wasn't there on Saturday's postgame,
Okay,
so I did not.
okay.
I don't want to say something that I didn't hear. But he mentioned pregame that this is the dog days of summer. In baseball terms. And I forget who asked the question, and I apologize for it wasn't me, but someone asked the question, can it just feel like the dog days? And he said they have a 5-7, so 5 games and 7 nights, which takes a big physical toll. Then they have 2 days off, and they play another 5-7. Wow. And he was like, yeah, this feels like the hardest part of the season. We're traveling, no off days, we're not practicing. He goes, we just have to stay locked in and focused. And, yeah, you don't want to lose 3 games in a row. Absolutely. this team's too good to lose 3 games in a row. But it's part of the stretch of the season where any night, if you don't play pretty well and another team shoots great, you can get got.
The way they lost them, too. I mean, the loss Saturday night, they were down, I think, 17 or 19.
And make a furious comeback, but
they
just
come
came up short.
storming back, and then they just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
In the last 40 seconds or whatever it was. And so you'd almost rather pull the stakes up
and
just run through the line.
Sorry to cut you off, Jay.
That's okay.
The same thing happened in the first Rockets game.
Yes, exactly the same thing.
Copycat.
And Philly just felt like, oh my God, that felt like you had to eat poison
terrible,
watching that game.
Look, here's where, and I'm looking for Donovan Mitchell for that. Sometimes I know your temperament is, okay, we'll be fine, we're okay, we good, we're still a great team. Sometimes you got to come in and rip people, and you got to have some fire and brimstone underneath you and say, listen, we lost 3 in a row. Everybody better get their ass in shape. Let's go. We're not losing this game. And early and often, you establish and you go to Evan Mobley and you challenge. See, these guys still young. I know that you want to bring them along and you want everybody to be equal, but you're not equal. Sometimes you got to challenge these dudes in real time. Evan Mobley, you down there against him, I'm going to you 5-6 times in a row. You better put him in the basket. Hey, Jared Allen, hey, I need you to get tough, bro. Come on. Like, he getting rebounds like that. Come on, bro. Like, he has to do that because those guys, they're a work in progress. When you win a lot of those games, sometimes you can get the false sense of security that the cake is already baked. Nah, that cake ain't baked. You still got 10 more minutes left to go in that oven, and Donovan Mitchell has to be the heat that provides that.
Do you guys think I overstated the importance of tonight?
No, you can't. Good teams. We've all watched great teams. The Celtics in the 80s, the Bulls in the 90s. We've seen the Golden State Warriors, even the Cleveland Cavs here in the 2010s. One thing that they all have in common with great teams is at some point in time, somebody on the team says enough is enough.
Right.
We're going to start a new streak. They got us those 3 games, but we're not about to play these games.
This certainly feels like the time to stand up.
I understand what you're saying. Like, in the moment, it feels like a big game. I think in the grand scheme of the season, it's probably not looking back. But right now, today, because they're playing so poorly and they've lost 3 in a row, there's some meaning. And you want to stick it to the other coach.
Yeah, and you do not want – if you could – list all of the teams in the league you don't want to lose to. I'm not saying Detroit would be 1, 2, or 3, but I think it's in the top 5. Their coach, who was run out of town, is doing a terrific job 3 hours up the road.
Yeah.
And I think this is a game that the Cavs better have 2 circles around because they do not want it to go to 4, and they do not want the narrative of, wow, you just got had by JB. JB. You don't want that.
Expect a big Donovan Mitchell game tonight. He ended the fourth quarter against Houston on fire. Hopefully that continues. We're going to pivot because we have a very special guest ready to join us after a quick word from Rocket Money. If you guys aren't using Rocket Money, what are you doing? It is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users that have saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year. When using all of the app's premium features, cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome Hall of Famer Cece Sabathia to the show. How you doing today, Cece?
Yeah, what's going on?
I told the fellas, I've been thinking about this a very long time, and I wanted to address you on this because this is a big deal, man. I'm confused as to why you didn't go into the Hall of Fame as a Milwaukee Brewer. Can you explain that to us? Because we confused. Like,
hey, CC, for the first 8 seconds of that question was like, "Are you kidding me? I come on here, you can
CC, they were scared.
He was gonna pull one of these.
He was like, "Yo," they was like, "Dang, G. Bush, why you set him up like that?" She didn't even know what I was doing.
That is a good starting point, though. We had this discussion last week. No one here faults you. I think good baseball fans all completely understand. We all get it. Your biggest team accomplishment, and you were always a team-first guy, came with the Yankees. And the bulk, you played more seasons in New York, and obviously that's where you've chosen to live. Have you heard much pushback on why not the C on the cap on the bust?
No, I haven't heard much pushback. I mean, I think that's, now at this point, most people look at me as a Yankee just because that's what they've seen, the second half of my career. For me, I mean, obviously you guys know how, special and, how much Cleveland means to me and my family. But for me, I played the longest in New York and, still choose to live here, still work for the organization. So I just thought it was a logical choice.
CC, I heard you on MLB radio with my guy CJ Nitkowski a couple of days ago. I can't remember exactly what day it was, but it was a fascinating conversation, talking about all the players that influenced you when you first came into the league in Cleveland. And for those in our audience who may not have heard that interview, could you talk about some of those guys when you were first coming up as a young player?
Yeah, it was, Dave Burba had a huge impact on me, Jason Beret, Matt Lawton, Ellis Burks, Ricky Gutierrez, all these different guys, a lot of position players though, but a lot of different guys that, just helped shape, who I became out on the mound and, the mentality that I had out on the mound. Just think about Alex Cora, Trot Nixon, all these different guys that I had a chance to play with. Aaron Boone even coming through Cleveland, for a couple years. Just the grit and the toughness that I feel like I was able to play with, I got from a lot of those guys and lessons that I got, in being a young player and just learning how to be a professional from Dave Burba, learning, bend but don't break, go out there and do whatever you can, to get a W. And that's all I ever cared about. I didn't really care about, my ERA or anything like that. It was just finishing the scoreboard and trying to get wins. And, I got that lesson from Burbs, really early in my career.
Cece, the first time I ever saw you pitch, I was doing play-by-play for the Batavia Muck Dogs in 1999. You were playing, of course, for the Mahoney Valley Scrappers. And the first time I saw you when we went to Mahoney Valley, I was like, oh, my God, look at this guy. And then I saw you pitch, and you faced Marlon Byrd, who, of course, was a good big leaguer for many years. He was on our team at the time, and he was a really good player, and you knew he was going to be pretty good. But, man, seeing you face him, it was just different. Like, at A-ball, 90% of those guys are never going to make it to the majors, if not higher. But from the moment I saw you, and I'm not a baseball scout, but I was like, this guy's special, and I was right. And you were. And it was unbelievable. You stood out even then. Did you know that as a player, or do you not think that way?
What's crazy is that I think you always have to think that way as a player. You have to, believe in yourself. You have to believe. I remember when I made the team, the first year in 2001, I thought I should have made the team in 2000. I was a 19-year-old, kid that had no clue that you had to pitch 5 innings to get a win, but I'm thinking I should pitch in the big leagues. I think you have to think, you have to, have those crazy lofty goals and, think of yourself that way. And yeah, I mean, it was weird, but, having a chance to play with Vic too so early and Mike Sarastouris and, those are two other big leaguers where you can see these guys are pretty good and they make you elevate your game. But I mean, yeah, I think you have to have that belief in yourself.
CC, what does it mean to go in as a first ballot guy? That distinction sort of separates. I mean, all the Hall of Famers are in a fraternity and they're all special. But the first ballot guys, particularly as high a percentage as you got, what distinction does that make for you?
I think it's something special. I mean, I think, if you're a sports fan, you know how hard it is to get into the baseball hall, let alone on the first call. So I think the tide's changing a little bit, though. I think, voters and, writers are looking for a reason to put guys in the Hall of Fame instead of, keep them out. So I'm grateful for that. I'm super excited. I know the list of guys that, weren't first ballot Hall of Famers that, probably had better careers than I did. But like I said, with the way baseball is going and the times are changing, I'm grateful and super excited and feel blessed to be able to go in as first ballot.
CC, when do there's always that moment of realization that you do anything professionally where you're like, hey man, I'm pretty good at this. What was the moment of clarity where like, man, I actually, if I could keep doing this, I might be able to make it to the Hall of Fame? Do you kind of just put your head down and just let the work speak for itself? Or is there a point where you have some success and you say at that moment, like, oh yeah, I think I could actually make the Hall of Fame?
No, there was never a point in my career where I was like, I feel like I could make the Hall of Fame, but there was a point where I felt like I can stay in the big leagues. And that was around, 2004, 2005. I got to be 24, 25 years old, and, I'm 4 or 5 years in, and I'm, I can battle my way through a game. The first 3 or 4 years I was in the big leagues, I'm looking in the paper every day to see if I'm getting sent down. Even that first year, the first year I won 17 games, I would look in the paper every single day just to see what the guys in AAA were doing, to see how like my numbers are stacking up. So it was, it's just trying to survive, and for me, coming from where I came from, coming from Vallejo, it was literally just trying to, make a way for me and my family. So I was never ever, pitching to get to Cooperstown. It was just, trying to be the best that I could out on the field and trying to, win games and win a championship.
CeCe, I know you played against him for many years and you played as a teammate of him, for a little while there with the Yankees. But to go in with Ichiro, who stole your Rookie of the Year, will you give him a hard time or have you done so already for stealing your Rookie of the Year award?
Oh yeah, I've been killing him. All last week. And then, he said, it had to be a Cleveland writer that voted for me, which it was. So he would have had unanimous, just like he would have had unanimous Hall of Fame. But it's fun to be able to go in with Ichi and, us be rookies the same year, retire the same year, have a chance to play against each other, have a chance to play against each other for so long, play with each other in New York for a couple years. It's going to be a fun summer. And, we talked about, when I felt like I was established, I tell this story. I told this on the network the other day. In 2006, me and Carl were trying to figure out an out pitch for me. I was trying to, I was throwing like a big loopy curveball when I got the 2 strikes and, I couldn't strike anybody out. And we went to the bullpen in Oakland and he taught me how to throw a cutter and it ended up being my slider. And I take it into the game, my next start in Seattle, and Ichiro hit it out twice. So just goes to show you how good of a player he was. But that's kind of when, things shifted for me and I was able to, turn myself into a Cy Young pitcher.
See, that was an out pitch for Ichiro, too. Take it out.
Right?
Hey, CeCe.
Out in the right field seats.
Exactly. You mentioned that, and I agree with it, too, that voters these days are looking for more reasons to put guys in than they are to keep them out. But Kenny Lofton is a curious case for us. We poured over his career the day after the Hall announcement, and I think this is a guy that did enough. He was a two-way player. He averaged 48 stolen bases a season, and I know that the stolen base idea was kind of washed out of the game for a while, but they've realized smartly that of what it means. It's like, 48 extra doubles. Talk about the case for Kenny, and do you think he will eventually get in?
Yeah, I definitely think Kenny's a Hall of Famer. I feel like, somebody was telling me about the ballot, the year that he got on the ballot. I guess it was a stacked ballot, and, he kind of, the votes kind of got, pushed towards the other guys. But when you played with Kenny, you felt like he was a Hall of Famer. That was always my test. Like, when I first came up and, I walk in that clubhouse in Cleveland, there were a couple of Hall of Famers in that clubhouse, and you felt it. It was Tommy I felt like it was a Hall of Famer. I felt like Robbie was a Hall of Famer. I felt like Omar was a Hall of Famer, and I felt like Kenny Lofton was a Hall of Famer. And, if you just look at Kenny's numbers, you put him up next to anybody's, and, like you said, with the stolen bases coming back into the game, and just a combination of speed and power and, the athleticism that he had. I think, with the Veterans Committee, I think, him, I think Gary Sheffield, I think you got to reevaluate all these different cases and, looking at, trying to get guys into the Hall of Fame instead of trying to keep guys out of the Hall of Fame.
Right. So I see all the awards behind you. and I'm sure you have too many to even list. And let's take the World Series and now the Hall of Fame out of it, because obviously those are, those are 1 and 2, I would imagine. Is there another award at any point in your career that means more to you than all of the others?
Yeah, actually, the 3 that are behind me is the Warren Spahn Award, and it's given to the best lefty in the league. But it's just all done by numbers. There's no voting. It's literally, wins, ERA, walks, strikeouts, and they tally it up and they give it to the best lefty. And I think I won it 2007, 8, and 9. So, Kershaw's won it a bunch of times. David Price has won it. Obviously, Randy Johnson's won it a bunch of times. So, it's a cool award because I think it takes the voting out. It's just all stats, all numbers, and it's a cool little statue that you get too.
Nice.
Hey, man, listen, before I ask my question, I got to get to that. Yeah, man, your little setup back there is crazy. See them little lights up there? That make everything look crazy, bro. What I'm going to do when I get home, I'm going to tell my wife to put my china in there, YMCA trophies, and put a flashlight or something, because that's crazy. That just shine the light.
This is my wife's setup. This ain't even my setup. This is my wife's setup. So
See,
you're right. You got to go ask the wife.
That's 2 times. When you was in here, I asked you, your wife got you set up. I say, bro, what kind of cologne is that? You say, that's that Tom Ford. I went immediately home. Hey, babe. Yeah, we gotta go to Macy's immediately. We gotta get this is unacceptable. My curve is not working. He just came through and shut everything down. Now, he just cut my shit.
You just took me back to 201.
Yeah, listen, I thought it was ready. He said, no.
Hey, CC Wifey never steers us wrong.
Now his trophy
never ever.
Yeah, she's obviously a woman of great taste.
So, obviously Stephen Vogt, he's one of the youngest, managers in the game. Have you ever faced Stephen Vogt?
Oh, he did.
In the past, and do you recollect off the top of your head what kind of work you was giving him? Because, I don't think.
I don't. I'm for sure 1,000% I had to face him. I probably a bunch. Our careers, coincided for sure, but I don't remember.
1 for 8,
what
CC.
he did.
He was 1 for 8 against you.
Wow, a
1 for 8 with a single
batting average.
You struck him out 3 times.
But you did hit him.
All right, that
you hit
sounds
him with a
about right.
pitch
He's a
once.
lefty. He was a lefty hitter, so
Yeah.
you got to cut him some slack.
That's true.
Hey, CC, I know that we have to spend some time on this because I know how important it is to you. Every summer you come back to Cleveland and you put on a free baseball camp for kids. And I've had the pleasure of going out there a couple times. I was out there last year. Watching you interact with the kids was absolutely next level. It was obvious that as a lot of these guys put these on, they step in for 10 minutes, give a speech at the beginning, and they're gone. I watched you the entire time of the camp interact with the kids. You were having as much fun as they were. I think where I'm going with this is you told a story to me that day about a former camper who then became a major leaguer. And he addressed you at a time when everybody in the league knew, when CC's on the field, don't talk to him. Tell that story if you would. I think it really encapsulates the spirit of why you do this, and also it shows kind of the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, having a chance to come back every summer and teaming up with colleague Giving and having a chance to team up with Matt Colleague and Tim Kleppert and do the camp every year in Cleveland is awesome. For us, the Pitching Foundation, and Colleague Giving, having a chance to have the field named after me is always awesome for me. And for me, giving back is something that's personal and not just like you said, giving a speech, but really spending time with the kids because having a chance to meet Dave Stewart when I was a kid, it changed my career. It changed the way I thought about baseball players. I got a chance to meet him at 9 years old in my Boys and Girls Club. And not only did I want to be him out on the field, but I wanted to be him in the community. I want to, go and spend time with kids and have that effect on kids. And, it started me on a, career of philanthropy. And, in 2003, I started doing my baseball camps out in Vallejo. And I've done them every year. I didn't do it last year, but I'm back to doing it this summer. And 2019, I was out on the field playing catch in Toronto. And like you said, people know, when I'm out on the field, especially if you're on the other team, most guys never came and approached me, Even if I had friends on the other team, I wouldn't talk to them till, after the game, we would go to dinner. But it was this kid came running across, big guy, came running across the field, and he goes, "Hey, CC, can I talk to you for a second?" And at first I kept walking and pretend like I didn't hear him, but then, he stopped me and I turned around and it was Rowdy Tellez. And he was like, "Hey, I just want to say thank you. As a kid, I went to your camps, growing up, I went to 2 of your camps and, it really changed me as a baseball player." And for me, it was just a full circle moment. It brought me back to that 9-year-old kid, seeing Dave Stewart and my Boys and Girls Club and, the reason why we do our camps and the reason why we started Pitch In and, all of the, volunteers and all of the hours and everything that we put into, all the stuff that we do. It was worth it just for that one interaction. I always say, if we change one life with everything that we do, with everything that we've done, in the 21 years that we've had the organization, it's all worth it. And in that moment it was.
I got goosebumps when you told me that story the first time, and I got them again this time. That really is what it's all about.
It is cool.
Hall of Fame person too, CC.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
We could use more people like CC Sabathia, who not only Hall of Fame at what they do, but Hall of Fame. Have you even thought about your speech yet?
Absolutely not. I mean, that's and I think
You
people
cannot
that
let
know
your
me,
wife write that for you.
Yeah, somebody's gonna write. Somebody's gonna have to write it.
Right.
But nobody's gonna be able to get up there and deliver it for me. That's the problem. So now I got to get on it pretty soon, and I want to get something done pretty early so that I don't forget anybody. I make sure that I'm thanking the right people in all three organizations, but really the right people in that Cleveland organization, and just make sure that I get this thing right. So I want to get it done early so that I can practice it, get through it. I'm a big crier. I will cry at the podium, but I got to make sure that I can get through it.
I also heard Tom Hamilton recently on MLB Radio, who's going into the Hall, of course, with CC, which is really cool. And Tom was asked specifically, I don't know if you heard this, CC, but Tom was asked, beyond the obvious, what makes CC Sabathia special? And Tom said, just ask anybody that's played with CC. He is the greatest teammate you're ever going to have. And I would think that there could be no bigger compliment than somebody saying you're the best teammate they've ever had, because it seems like everybody feels that way, CC.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the best compliment. I mean that's the only thing I ever really cared about. But that came from getting drafted in that organization in Cleveland, and that was something that was stressed us. That was something that was important to us. Was being a good teammate and making sure that you're accountable and picking up the guy next to you, and that was something that I took to heart, and something that even as in the minor leagues, when everybody's kind of fighting and clawing against each other, but you can find a little bit of solace in being a teammate. Like I said, me and Victor Martinez are still close. Some of these guys that you battle, through the minor leagues with, if you believe in that philosophy, you can find lifelong friendship. So it was something that I carried through my whole career. Wanted to be a good teammate and be just a fierce competitor, and it ended me up in Cooperstown.
G joked about the Brewers earlier, and that was funny. But I was just thinking about it. What you did with the Brewers in that short period of time was one of the most remarkable runs I've ever seen a pitcher have. And I've been obsessed like Jay with baseball for 50 years. I mean, I know obviously it was a small part of your career, but that was one of the most incredible runs in modern baseball history.
What's crazy is that as good as I was that second half in Milwaukee, that if you look at the first half in Cleveland, I was so bad. The first half in 2008
or something.
It was horrible. Like I was really bad. Like it was unbelievable. I couldn't get anybody out.
What changed?
It was so it just had to the season had to even out. You know what I'm saying? Like it was one of those things where that was going to happen if I would have stayed in Cleveland too. So it was just one of those runs where, every time I felt like I picked up the ball, I felt like I was going to go out and give the team a good chance to win. But if you look at everybody talks about that second half. You look at the first half I had, it was the season. It had to even out.
Yeah, I think you were something like 2-6 when they traded you. I know you got to go.
But it was like
50.
I had like a 5 though.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know. It was odd. It was like you flipped a switch. I don't know if you needed to change the scenery or what, but it just when you went to Milwaukee, you became Superman again. I know you got to go here in just a couple of seconds, but quickly before we leave, I know you said you're doing some work for the Yankees. Have you ever given any thought to maybe one day being a pitching coach or a manager? It just seems like you have so much to give back to the game.
Yeah, I mean, but it takes a lot of time to do that. You know, every single day being on the baseball schedule. Now that I'm not, you know, in baseball like that involved, you know, to on the field, I don't know if I can ever get back to that schedule where you're playing 162 and, you know, 185, 188 days. Like, it's a crazy summer. I enjoy going to Europe in the summertime. I enjoy going to Italy. I enjoy playing golf in Tahoe and all these different things that, you know, I wasn't able to do. If you think about it, when you play baseball, you don't have a summer you don't have summer off,
right?
Ever. So I didn't have a summer off from 1998 until 2019. Like, I need some summer vacations for a little while before I even think about going back
that's
to being
fair.
out on the field.
But you can only get so many vacations in and so many rounds of golf. If you ever get bored, Carl can't work forever, CC.
That's true. That's true. I can give Carl some relief.
All right, I don't think you get many arguments for that here.
Last thing real quick, CC, before you go. Over a 200 career batting average as a pitcher, which is great. You hit, I believe, 3 home runs, right?
Now, I hit 3.
If you had been a hitter,
it was higher until I got old, man. My knee got bad.
Yeah.
I wanted to end with like 250.
I mean, you know, there's plenty of players now that don't hit 200 and they're hitters. but if you had been a hitter, do you think you could have been a big league hitter? Like, were you good enough when you were younger?
No, absolutely not. It's super hard to hit, man. I mean, that's a completely different life. And you know, the times when I got a chance to hit and the times when I got a chance to play in the National League, I think I pitched better because you realize how hard it is to actually hit. You know, hit a baseball. So I don't know. That it's tough to be a hitter.
Thanks, CC.
CC, thanks so much. And congratulations, man.
Yeah.
You've earned it. Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
All right. The great CC Sabathia.
best,
Can you imagine if Carl, when Carl decides to call it a career, CC became the Guardians pitching coach?
I think he has a son that's playing.
He does. You know what? I wanted to ask him about him. I don't know if he's still online. He was telling me he had some injuries, I think a wrist, if I'm not mistaken. His son was a position player.
First baseman.
And a great
CC
hitter.
made a lot of money. He was a popular guy, has a lot of friends probably.
Yeah.
You see how many people was at his house when they were celebrating?
Well, that's how you know you're going in.
Yeah.
Because you don't invite all those people if you think you're on the fence.
And it was a mixed bag in there. So he had family, agents, financial business partners, next door neighbors.
Yeah.
You knew he was going that day. I'm like, man.
We didn't have time to ask him everything, obviously, but he mentioned on that MLB interview I heard him do on MLB radio that, like, they asked him, will you pay? Because there's this guy, Mr. Tibbs, who keeps track of all the public Hall of Fame ballots before the announcement. And he was like, he said, CJ Nikowski asked CC, he was like, were you following that? Or he's like, of course I was following it.
Oh, yeah, you are.
He goes, don't let any of these guys tell you that they weren't paying attention. They're all paying attention.
They want to know.
Absolutely. And well-deserved. And you can't find a human being to say anything bad about CC Sabathia.
And, you know, we talked about how, and not that I don't want this to come out the wrong way.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get in.
Yeah.
I thought certainly he deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But I thought his vote total would be in the 75 to 80
I did
range.
too. I didn't think it would be. I mean, I would vote for him personally, which
But, you know, there's a lot of curmudgeons. There's a lot of guys that just say, I don't care how great you are, I'm going to make you wait.
Right.
And the fact that he got, what was he, 88%?
Yeah.
I mean, that speaks to his likability.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loved
I
CC.
think he came at a time where it was the steroid era, and he also remade himself. Like, he had a complete makeover. Like, he completely pitched 2 different ways and was successful both ways.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you're a guy voting for the Hall of Fame and you're like, well, this guy obviously There's been no rumblings about him being cheating.
Yeah.
And he'll tell you, that body, the first I had, there wasn't nobody could accuse me of cheating the way I was looking.
Yeah, he looked like that at Mahoning Valley.
Right.
I mean,
Right now, when you see CC Sabathia, he looks like an NFL tight end.
oh yeah,
I mean,
well,
he
he's
is
great.
Yeah,
he
he's
is
great.
fit. And what's crazy is you talked about the reinventing himself. Bull, we've talked about this before. As much as it was electric, his fastball when he was young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the image I have of CC is the big looping curveball that was coming in, particularly when he threw it to a lefty who just had no chance
That's right.
against him.
It's funny he mentioned that because that's what I remember.
That's the image I have of him.
That big looping
It's kind of like
curveball
Frank
with the
Tanana
hat
in the
off
70s
to the
had
side
to do
and
that.
all that.
Little cockeyed.
But he talked about how Andy Pettit and Mariano Rivera helped him with the cutter later in his career.
Yeah.
And because he was starting to tail off, and then he changed how he pitched, as you said, and then he had some great years at the end of his career, and that I think put him over the top for the Hall of Fame. That bounce back after it seemed to be declining.
Yeah,
That
it
bounce
was big.
back.
It's
and,
really hard for
Yeah, but it
guys to do.
shouldn't really matter. But the fact that he's a good guy, he was always good with the media. That's going to help. There's going to be some guys that will vote for you who may think you're borderline. I'm not one of them. I don't think he's borderline. I think he's definite. But that maybe said, I'm going to vote him in because I love him.
Jim Rice is a perfect example of someone that was on the other end of the spectrum. Jim Rice was a notorious
Eddie Murray.
asshole.
Yeah,
there's really no Eddie Murray.
Another,
And I think
Albert Bell.
Jim Rice was a guy, if you look at his career, he's going to get in. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, voters
it's
made
a
him
while.
pay for a while.
Yeah, which is wrong.
I don't
wrong.
like that. I hate it.
But,
it should be on the merits. But, citizenship is also mentioned, and sportsmanship or whatever. It's not. There is other standards than just what you put on the field. Kenny Lofton, although I liked Kenny as a player, I covered those teams from 93 to 98.
Yeah.
He wasn't fun to deal with. Albert Bell was the all-time worst that I've ever had to deal with. Ever. He and Warren Sapp.
I was about to say worse than Warren Sapp.
They were the two notorious wows. But Kenny Lofton was close, man. Kenny Lofton was very tough to interview.
I think as a media member, you owe it to the importance of what you're doing to not factor that in.
Right.
I remember interviewing Kenny Lofton a few years ago. I think I might have mentioned this.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he got mad at me.
One of the funniest clips of all time.
Why?
Well, he mistook what I was saying, and it sounds really stupid now. But when the Indians at the time had just signed Michael Bourne, remember?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And I said to Kenny, I don't remember exactly how I put it, but I basically said, Michael Bourne is your style of player. I wasn't saying he was Kenny Lofton.
No, I get it.
I was saying his game was like, he was a very poor man's Kenny Lofton.
Very poor man.
And when he came here, he completely went down the tubes.
I don't see it.
But he took it as an insult, and I certainly did not mean it as an insult.
No, I understand.
But he got mad. But if I were voting for the Hall of Fame, that would have been a non-factor in my voting. Then he got mad at me in an interview. I wouldn't have cared.
There's a hope. I hate to even say this, but I'm going to. There's a hope that when they come in for the sports awards next week, that we get maybe Charles Nagy, Jim Thome, Kenny Lofton, Mike Hargrove. They're all four coming in for a roundtable that Chris Rose is going to moderate the night of the awards.
And Chris is coming on Wednesday, by the way.
I know Chris is coming on next Wednesday. Also,
next Wednesday or this Wednesday?
No, it's next Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
I think Chris is coming on this
Also,
Wednesday,
Rajay Davis is coming in.
He's awesome.
I hope we get a chance to, and I've asked Matt with the Sports Commission, we'll take anybody. We'll take, if we can get all of them at once, that would be phenomenal. Just to talk about that team and that run.
Yeah. I had the pleasure to interview Rajay Davis once, and that was one of the most fun interviews I've ever done. I love that guy.
Isn't that the temperament you would have if you were ever a major leaguer?
100%.
I always, when I was 23, 24 years old, and I would go to a major league game because I wanted to do a feature on someone, I would do interviews. It was my first real experience of, wow, some of these guys can be real dicks.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, really.
Right.
And I was like, my God, if I was ever blessed with the opportunity to call this my office, I think I'd be giving out candy. I'd be like so happy I would be Rajay Davis.
The guy couldn't be nicer. And he admitted, I remember asking him, like, when you came up against Chapman, did you think you could hit a home run? And he's like, no,
just make contact.
Wow,
what
he's a guy who doesn't take himself too seriously. Like
Yeah.
he's just. I mean, that guy's.
We
the
all
best.
should live like that.
Jim Tomey's awesome. I'm sure you've talked to him a
Jim's
million
one of the
times.
best. One of
I've
the
never
all-time
interviewed Charles
greats.
Nagy though. I would enjoy.
Charles
doing that.
was a professional. He was fine to interview. He was fine.
Yeah.
He was a good guy.
A lot
do
of times
remember.
pitchers, which is why it makes CC stand out. A lot of times pitchers are uptight interviewed, not necessarily rude or not nice. They can be very stoic.
Their
often.
mindset's different, I think, and
Yeah.
that's that.
If you want more Guardians talk, we got a surprise for you guys. Tomorrow morning, the Ultimate Guardian Show with Bull and Zach makes its triumphant return for the 2025 season.
Yes.
So 9 a.m. live on the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys tune in. That'll be your Guardians' first episode of the season. They'll continue to do that throughout the year. But, guys, let's talk about the NFL and more specifically the AFC Championship game last night between the Bills and the Chiefs. We have a Super Bowl rematch, Eagles versus Chiefs. We may have to go back to Jay's house because that's where we watched the first iteration
do it, man. I'll throw the party.
of Eagles and Chiefs. All right, well, I'm back in. Let's do it. But Josh Allen versus Mahomes. Boy, I want to start with you on this one.
Yeah.
In 4 games in the playoffs against the Chiefs, Josh Allen has 11 total touchdowns, 1 total turnover, and 0 wins.
So
You have to play perfect to beat Mahomes. That is what it is.
it's just crazy. So there's a number of things about this, and a couple that are pissing me off that we'll get to later. But first of all, credit to the Chiefs. They're as much as I'm sick of them. When they first started winning, I was rooting for them because they played the Patriots, and I was sick of the Patriots and sick of Tom Brady. Now I'm sick of the Chiefs. But the run that they've been on since Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid got together is unheard of. If they win another Super Bowl, it's just crazy.
Well, it does. You don't think it already eclipses Brady and Belichick yet?
I think it's close. I think they're getting there. I mean, this would be this is their what?
Sixth Super Bowl
trip in 7
Super
years.
Bowl in
fifth.
6 years.
Yeah, but
Fifth Super
how
Bowl.
many in total? Is
4.
Fifth and sixth. It's their 5th Super Bowl.
It's Mahomes' 5th and 6th season as a starter.
Okay.
And it would be his.
Well, if they
His
win, it
fourth
would be his
win.
fourth
Fourth
win.
win.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
And that's how
I mean,
that's how it
it's
starts.
crazy. You have the best coach in the league and the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
And 2 years in a row, before that, 3, when they won their first one, everybody was picking them. The last 2 years, it's not been the case. No. Now, I haven't been as down on the Chiefs as other people have, but I picked the Bills to win this game.
I didn't.
You didn't?
I told him I'm not picking against the Chiefs.
No, you guys all picked the Bills. I was
did.
the only
On
one
Friday.
that picked
That's true.
I
Right.
picked the Chiefs. I was
That's
the
right.
only one that picked the Chiefs.
I remember.
I wasn't here Friday.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
you're right. Jason was in. All
wasn't
right, G,
fair.
you're right. Okay,
So I
G, you're
did get
That's
exonerated.
fair. We all
You're
picked the
exonerated.
Bills.
No.
And the Chiefs just find a way. Every game is close. They find a way.
Is it 12
every
one-score
single
games
time.
this
I mean,
year?
it's just
12-0
insane.
in one-score
It's for-
games.
It's insane. And they lost 2 years ago. They lost Tyreek Hill. Everybody made such a big deal about it. It's been a non-factor. He's one of the best. I mean, at this point, he's not the best anymore. But it's a non-factor. You lost one of the best receivers in football. Their best receiver going into the year, Rashee Rice, missed the season.
Yeah.
Their best running back going into the season, Isaiah Pacheco, got hurt after a couple of weeks, and he hasn't been the same guy since he's been back. Kelsey's clearly getting old. He wasn't exactly still great and still
Although he
clutch.
flipped the switch last week.
But he's not the player he once was. He's not
I
at
don't
his
think
peak
so.
anymore.
No.
And it doesn't matter.
Because
they find a way every time.
Because they are the quintessential project stockpile team. They don't. You mentioned all those guys. Rashee Rice. Okay, you got hurt. Well, listen, we're drafting worthy. We're going to draft Sky Moore. Oh, that didn't hit. We're going to draft another guy. Oh, that didn't hit. We'll get DeAndre Hopkins. We'll still bring Juju Smith-Schuster back. Oh, Kareem Hunt is finished. We'll bring him back into the fold. They never quit. They never say we're great. And my takeaway from this situation is the Bills. Look, you got the quarterback. If you want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, the regular conventional thought process that you're going to be, oh, well, we'll look for the future and we'll still try to win now. If you are Lamar Jackson, if you are Patrick Mahomes, or not Patrick Mahomes, but Joe Burrow, if you are Josh Allen and you're trying to get where you need to go with Pat Mahomes and beat them, you have to be pushing every button. I don't care about no first-round picks. I don't care about no picks, period. I don't care about no young dudes. You need to have multiple stars on offense.
Hey, I listen.
Multiple.
I get what you're saying, G. The Ravens and Bengals have more talent around their quarterbacks than Patrick Mahomes
They need more.
does.
They need
and
more.
It's still I don't buy that.
They need more.
I don't buy
until they win, Bull. Until you just said it.
Yeah.
You said it yourself. This is how you lull yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
You said you have to play perfect. So
Well, I didn't say that. Mike said that.
But,
Well, you do, though. He's
you
right.
have to play perfect.
He's right.
And you're not going to get another coach because those coaches are good. They're just not Andy Reid. And you got the quarterback. You know they can compete on that length. So what do you do to close the gap? You have to have an all-time roster.
Well,
this is an arms race.
We're not talking about defense in this conversation yet either. In Kansas City, when you mentioned they lost some pieces on offense, their defense became more dominant. Their
but the defense wasn't dominant yesterday.
Well, you hold a Bills team that can pretty much score at will. What was it, 24 points?
What was the final?
32-29?
Yeah, I mean, it
29 points?
That's dominant? Give me
Enough to win.
29 points?
Here's what the defense has to do. Allow one fewer point than the offense scores.
Okay, but you said
and
it was
that's
dominant.
What they do.
I'm saying it wasn't dominant.
Where's their defense ranked this year?
They were good
NFL.
this season. They were very good
They're
defense.
very
But
good.
I'm just talking about this week. They weren't dominant.
Well, this week, look, it's an
Yeah.
AFC Championship game. You know with these two quarterbacks, you know what you're going to get. You're going to
Yeah.
get a shootout. By the way, I thought the game was good. It wasn't as good as the game last year. Last year's game was all-time great.
No, that wasn't last
2
year.
years ago. 2
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
The overtime game.
The difference is Andy Reid is the ultimate difference.
He is. It's everything together. Andy Reid's the best coach. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback. Their defense is playing very, very well. You put it all together, you have a chance to win the Super Bowl
I
every year.
personally don't think Patrick Mahomes is any better than Allen. I know this is a minority opinion, and that's fine. And everybody can kill me, whatever. I think Burrow, Lamar, and Josh Allen are as good as Patrick Mahomes. But
Can I give you the difference?
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
I think
Yeah.
in general you're right. Skill set's very similar.
Yeah.
They could. It's in the clutch.
He don't miss.
This guy in the clutch is unbelievable.
He don't miss.
When they have to have it, they get it.
He also has a much better coach than any of those teams do.
He's got the best coach.
Yeah.
And that's a cheat
That's
code.
a big advantage.
And then when you put those two together, it's
Yeah.
Belichick and Brady all over again.
if you know this and you understand this, stop going into the offseason saying this is good enough. It's not. You're wasting people's prime. If I got Josh Allen, I'm dropping haymakers all offseason because it's not about what you do in the regular season. You have to out-talent them because you're not going to be better than Mahomes and the coach. You're just not.
You know what really hurt them? They made a move, and it was Amari Cooper.
That ain't going to get it
Man,
done.
you talk about
Amari
a guy
Cooper,
just becoming invisible almost overnight. In his playoff game last year, he had over 200 receiving yards.
Nah, that
that
wasn't a
guy.
move.
No, what I'm saying is they thought
They
that
thought
was a splash move,
that wasn't.
and they missed on it.
Yeah,
Big.
I don't buy that these. I mean, the Ravens made some big moves this offseason. They got.
I
Derrick
thought the
Henry.
Ravens were the team
You know,
this
it's
year.
just listen. The Chiefs are unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes deserves credit. He is the clutchest quarterback. There's no doubt about it. He has an advantage of a great coaching staff around him, a veteran team around him. I do think this every time that Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson lose, that we got to shit all over them, is so ridiculous.
It was like it feels to me, Bull, like
Yeah.
when Manning would lose to Brady. You know, you were like, my God, this
Yeah.
guy's all-time great. This guy does everything.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady was in his way. Same thing with Roethlisberger. That era of quarterbacks, the AFC right now feels like it did then.
It did, and eventually Manning and Roethlisberger broke through.
Poked through here and there.
And at some point, Allen and Lamar and Burrow obviously Burrow's the last guy to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Bengals the last time to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. But they didn't win the Super Bowl. Eventually, those guys got to win a Super Bowl. I get it. You know, that's how we're judged.
It feels,
to
though,
some
like
degree.
we've got the Manning, Brady, Roethlisberger era all over again. And playing
Right.
the part of Brady is Mahomes.
Yeah.
And playing the part of Manning is Allen. And playing the part of Roethlisberger might be Burrow. It almost feels like that.
Yeah.
And right now, it's going to be really hard to knock
I
these
think
guys
Mahomes
off.
is going to go down as the greatest quarterback ever because he's going to win the most.
Man,
I think he's going to win more than Brady does. Probably. I
Brady
think
won
they-
8?
Who's
I was thinking he won 6. I don't know.
No, I think Brady won 7 or 8.
No, 7.
Seven.
He won 6
7.
with New England and the one with
God
Tampa Bay.
dang,
Right,
man.
right.
And the one at Tampa Bay, that
I mean,
was, to me,
Mahomes
that was
is not even 30 yet.
who is?
I know. Brady started hot, too.
But not as hot as this.
Who is
No one has.
the best receiver that the Bills have?
Shakir.
Yeah.
No, I know.
Shakira can't be your best.
no,
Shakira.
hey, listen.
That's the only Shakira I know.
Dalton,
His hips lie.
His hips was lying all
I
week.
think it's fair to be critical of the Bills specifically in terms of adding talent. They had a lot. I think both of you guys didn't have the Bills in the playoffs
No, I
before
didn't.
the season.
I
No, I think I had the Bills
I think
in
they
the
was going to take.
playoffs.
I think they was going to take a step back. But obviously, Josh Allen was a monster. They got to. Yeah, here's the thing, man. I can't keep harping on it. Look, who's the best receiver that the Ravens got?
Zay Flowers, but he was hurt in the Bills game.
Okay,
He didn't play.
One
you're gonna need some more.
One
bro.
thing on the Bills that I
more.
think needs to be pointed out and see what you guys think about this. And I've seen it this year, but I was reminded and stunned at the lack of creativity and imagination in their offense. McDermott said properly, by the way, I thought he was the picture of class doing that interview in defeat last night after the game was over. But the one thing he said, he was asked specifically what did it come down to, and he said it was short yardage situations. They were abysmal on those 4th and 1 plays. And they kept trying the same thing over and over.
I didn't understand. Although I thought they got that last one,
I did too.
But in the end, they had the ball with a chance to win.
Yes.
Kincaid's got to catch that ball. That was an amazing throw by Allen.
In his hands.
It was in hands.
That
In
was
his
an
hands.
incredible throw by Allen. He had no time to throw. No, I don't think
If he catches that, they're going to overtime at minimum.
Yes.
Because they're in field goal range.
Yes.
And I just thought they're off. If you put Andy Reid in Buffalo with these same pieces, you've got the same thing you have in Kansas City right now.
He's so much more innovative when it comes to the creativity, the way he puts game plans and schemes things together, and just the concept. It's not even close.
There were times where Cook wasn't even on the field on those 4th and 1s. It reminded me of Pete Carroll when he lost a national championship game because he had Reggie Bush on the sidelines and didn't have the Heisman Trophy. Even if you're not going to give him the ball, use him as a decoy.
Yeah,
and James Cook was
James Cook had a good game, and he's a really good player.
But they never used him in those 4th and 1s.
Well, they did for the touchdown. He had that one touchdown on 4th
but
down.
was that 4th down?
I think
that was 4th down.
Yeah,
You're right.
Ty Johnson's been good for them in that role, so they use. But I would have used him more personally, but I don't know. And man, it's just unreal how the Chiefs are always.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
I think they're going to win.
I
I'm
do
rooting
too.
for Philadelphia, but
I'm not picking against it, but I do have a question to ask you. And Bull, you've been
Yeah.
firing shots left and right about this
Well,
all
'cause
morning.
this is
So
just silly.
let's bring up the Kareem Hunt topic. Did the
Okay.
Browns make a mistake letting Kareem
stop
Hunt
it.
walk?
This is ludicrous. Okay, there's plenty of fair things to crap on the Browns about. Not bringing back Kareem Hunt, really? And this all started because my man Darryl Ryder, I love him. We worked together for many years. But Darryl puts the Browns, they couldn't use Kareem Hunt or whatever he said last night. Like, that's just such a disingenuous thing.
I agree with him.
It's okay. The Browns would have still won 3 games with Kareem Hunt. Let's face the realities. People are talking about Kareem Hunt having 7 touchdowns as if he's freaking Saquon Barkley here. He averaged 3.5 yards a carry, which is terrible. He's 53 out of 61 running backs in the league in yards after contact. He gets the ball on the 3-yard line, and he does that job. He's nice in that role.
Well, and
that would have
that's
done nothing for the Browns
Nothing.
this year.
We're not in a situation where we needed a closer.
He would have been useless for the Browns.
All that being said,
Yeah.
I said when they signed him, I said when the Browns didn't bring him back, I go, he's going back to Kansas City. Here's what he is. He's a 2 or 3 yard back. There was a play yesterday where he was hit 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He gained 7 yards after that. The tough yards
but he's
in
not
the NFL.
good at that.
And by the way,
he's not good at that.
No, he is.
No, he's not. He's
What?
53rd out of 61 running backs in yards after contact.
We need touchdowns, right? If Buffalo had a guy that was great in 4th and 1,
they'd be good.
And you know what the difference between Buffalo, one of the differences between Buffalo and Philly is? When Philly's in 4th and 1, you're like, okay, new set it down. You can't stop them. It's a first down almost every single time.
Kareem Hunt's dependent on his offensive
But what I
line.
like about Kareem Hunt and what the Kansas City Chiefs recognized that they could use, the toughest 3 feet in all of sports is from the 1 yard line. You need a guy that has a nose for the end zone. He's not a great back anymore, but he does have a way to plow through all that and get into the end zone. And that's a commodity.
Yeah, but he's like,
ask Buffalo today.
He finished like 25th in touchdowns amongst running backs. It's
But-
not like he's
but hold on, but that's stats. That's just stats.
Touchdowns per carry.
I'm sorry, I'm using facts.
No. You're not going to use him like you use a regular back. You're only using him in that spot.
What we're talking about is
that's what I'm saying.
But he's a weapon.
Bull, you got to understand.
I just think he's a guy.
But I listen. I don't agree with Daryl that we should have kept him. Or what are we going to do with him?
Here's the thing. There's two things here.
Yeah.
One fold is when you're playing against a guy, there's a cumulative effect when you have to tackle a guy that's running that hard. People act like these are humans. Like, there is an effect on the run game. I got to get up. It's psychological. It's physical. Sometimes you run the ball not to get 7 yards to carry. You run the ball because it's a mentality, and you got to get a tough three sometimes. You know how important a tough three is? Ask the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. How they got to run their quarterback, and they got stopped when it's 4th and inches. How much would they pay for 3 yards in that case?
Well,
1 yard.
Can I give one stat real quick?
Better play call, it would have worked. But if Kareem Hunt's so good, why did nobody want him in the beginning of each of the last 2 years?
Because here's the thing. Everybody can't see what other people see. Some people is just not good. Like, some people that run these teams are not smart.
Well, but no team wanted him. None.
But the best team did, and
the best team did after the season started because their running back got hurt.
But that's what gave him the opportunity.
Right.
He wasn't in the top 53, but he was very important once their running back went out. Andy knows this guy.
I just think there's a lot of other guys that can do what he does. And I think it's overrated.
They went with him, and here they are.
Listen, we got 3 or 4 guys that ain't doing what he's doing.
What's your stat, Mike?
What are you talking about?
Who do you think finished with a higher 4th down conversion rate this year, the Bills or the Chiefs?
The Bills.
The Bills did.
They did second highest in football.
Which is why I was so disappointed.
It was
yesterday.
last night they didn't play.
It's why I was so disappointed with yesterday. They kept trying to shift Allen to the left.
Man.
In that half of a second that it takes him to get the snap and take a step to the left, the play's over.
That's all about coaching.
It's all about coaching. I just kept screaming. They tried it again and again and again.
Think about this. We've gotten to a place where now we are counting on quarterback sneaks. These dudes are doing mental gymnastics to get quarterbacks to do these sneaks when old school football reigns supreme. Give me 2 tight ends, a fullback, and a short yardage back, and I'm about to get these yards.
They should have given the ball to James Cook some of those times. I don't know why they didn't.
I was screaming.
He's a way better back than Kareem Hunt.
And I had Cook in my fantasy team this year.
Yeah.
And so I was keenly aware of how they use him and how he's effective in that situation. And I just kept looking at Sean McDermott like, what? Did you forget that you have this guy in your roster? He's on the sidelines during these
McDermott
plays.
said during the regular season we were intentionally not giving Cook some carries. We want to save him for the playoffs. And then that must have made last night even more kind of baffling.
More perplexing.
Yes.
And like the Chiefs almost never sneak with Patrick Mahomes. They don't really do it.
No.
They're like, we got a running back. Let's let him do it.
What they do, though, in that situation, and they did it last night.
I think you and I are mostly on the same page.
We are.
Kareem Hunt is perfectly fine in that role.
He is not a star.
He's certainly not. And I'm just saying, I don't think he's like this special
goal
line back.
Well,
I think he's a fine goal line back.
He's almost like the utility guy who, when you bring him in, can steal a base, or you put him in as a defensive replacement, makes a diving play.
Yeah.
Maybe here and there he'll get a clutch hit for you. He's a piece on the roster that if you asked Andy Reid today, would you be where you are if you didn't have him for the season? He might tell you no.
He got 17 carries, 64 yards, 1 touchdown. Them is hard playoff yards.
He played a solid game.
And he did have a nice game.
I don't deny that.
And the championship.
But that's 4 yards of carry. It's not like he's changing life.
I'm just saying, this whole thing about that the Browns blew, it's easy to crap on the Browns for a lot of real things. The Browns didn't blow it with Kareem Hunt.
The next thing is, the overarching theme is with the Cleveland Browns is not being able to properly evaluate who's good, who's bad, and who you should be playing. The problem is Kareem Hunt was here in his prime.
He was.
And the Browns still didn't use him correctly.
Well, how should they have used him?
How many times did we say, where's Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in the same backfield?
I said it too, but the reality is, they didn't do that in Kansas City.
But here's what I'm saying.
Nobody really does that, even though I wanted it also.
But here's the thing. I give you another example. We got Odell Beckham Jr., right? He goes to the Rams, And he scores touchdowns in the Super Bowl. And you're like, well, I thought he was washed. I thought we couldn't find a way to get him.
Come on. Odell was washed.
Wait, hold on.
He had like 2-3 good games.
But here's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you score 2 touchdowns in a game in the Super Bowl and you couldn't get the ball in Cleveland, the reality is, Bull,
we got the ball here.
Listen,
he was a bad teammate. This is an old argument at this point.
No, it's not. No, it's not an old argument.
Yeah,
the argument is everybody that leaves Cleveland goes to these other. Hey, what about Schwartz? What about Mitchell Schwartz?
That was a huge mistake.
Okay,
that has nothing to do with this regime, though.
But what I'm saying is there's a
no. But Odell barely did anything after he left. You know that.
Stop. You know he bought it. You know we had arguments about what Odell did in the playoffs to get him there in the postseason.
I give you, he did well in that postseason. But he never did anything else besides that.
But
that was a great run.
But what I'm
Were
saying,
the Browns going to the postseason?
What I'm saying is, as we move forward, we got what gives you confidence that if you can't see this guy can play still, or you can't put this guy in position, I got a hard time.
I just don't think Kareem Hunt's a good example.
I got a hard time thinking if you draft Travis Hunter, you gonna put him in position.
That's a fair question if you factor in the drafts too.
Yes,
the guys they've drafted at wide receiver that have given us nothing whatsoever. It makes me question how are they going to finally get it right at that spot?
But what I'm saying is I don't think Kareem Hunt or even Odell are good examples, in my opinion.
You know what would have happened yesterday if Amari Cooper caught the game-winning touchdown?
Yeah.
The narrative this morning would have been, the Browns blew
100%.
it. No, they didn't. Amari is done.
Yeah.
They knew it before anyone else did. So I got to give them credit on that one.
I'll give credit where credit is due. I'll give credit
Jarvis Landry was done.
Where credit is due on that. My thing is like this. It's all about the evaluation process. If the Cleveland Browns, it's painful to see people go other places and have a certain level of success, and you got 3 wins. That's just that's the sentiment that I think you're saying.
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
That I get.
When you see Kareem Hunt score touchdowns doing push-ups in the end zone, you think about a time when we beat the Steelers and he scored them touchdowns and he's doing push-ups. You're like, damn. We had him at once upon a time.
That's fair. It's just this idea that he would have made a difference for the Browns. I just don't buy that.
He wouldn't have been 1,000-yard back. He wouldn't have been anything special.
Right. But that's the only piece you're missing.
It looks crazy.
He's an MVP.
I'm not going that far.
No, because
he has value. I'll give you he has value.
I'm not going to say they lose that game without Kareem Hunt. I won't go that far. But those, like you mentioned, those 64 yards, those 4 yards per carry.
That's tough.
That keeps drives moving. That helps you win the game.
I hear you. I think they would have won anyway, but it's a stupid argument.
Let me ask you guys this before we move on to the other part of the Browns we got to talk about. Right now, today, G, I'll start with you. Who's a better running back right now, Jerome Ford or Kareem Hunt?
Kareem Hunt? What do you mean?
Jay?
I'm going with the younger legs. I'm going to.
He has more splash ability, but on down
I would go.
Here's what I'd say to that: if you say,
can he handle Ford's workload right now?
If you say who's a better runner, Jerome Ford's a better runner right now. If you say who's a better back, I would say Kareem Hunt. And what I mean is, Kareem Hunt is still pretty good at picking up the blitz.
Very good at picking up the blitz.
He does things like that, those little things that he's still solid at, that Jerome Ford is not particularly good at. If you said to me, well, you can only have one of these guys over a season on the same team carry 15, 20 times, I'd rather have Ford.
I would take the younger legs.
If you say, okay, well, I need him to pass block a lot and I need him to just score on the goal line, I'd rather take Kareem Hunt.
If you ask me, McNuggets, you got one game for all the marbles.
Oh, that's easy.
No, I would take Kareem Hunt in that situation.
Come on out here.
Kareem Hunt might score 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl and be the MVP.
No, listen.
It's possible.
I didn't get to get as mad as I thought I would because you guys weren't as high on Kareem Hunt as I thought you would.
Oh, well, he's not an all-pro.
I don't think anybody was out here saying, oh, here he is, the best running back in the NFL. He's a piece that helps the Chiefs win. That's what he is.
That's fine. I just think it's easy to pile on the Browns, and they deserve it. They mostly deserve it.
Yeah.
And moves,
but do it where it's warranted.
Right.
And moves like that are the reason why the Chiefs are so good.
That's no doubt.
They find look, that's the difference. That game is hey, Buffalo, can you get in 2 tight ends and run the football to get a yard? No, we got to run our quarterback every single play. That you're not going to win then. You're not balanced enough. You got to find me somebody.
The frustrating thing is I think they are good enough to do it.
They have someone on the roster in Cook, and he was standing on the sideline.
Can I push back on that real quick, G? the Eagles, can we all agree Saquon's the best back in football?
Yes.
They
No
do
question.
tush push every 4th and 1. So let's not pretend that's like
fair.
But Mike,
And they have the best offensive
But
line.
push is
here's
unstoppable.
why. You can't stop it. It's a cheat code.
But listen,
Although they did stop it yesterday once, didn't
One
they?
time they stopped it
But I'm
yesterday.
just saying, G saying
No,
they
it's a
should have
headline.
a QB run.
One team.
It works.
Hold on. One team gets that off every time.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
There's
it.
no
And
other
it's
team
not
that does
ju-
that.
By the way, it's not just the quarterback. It's the push they get from the line.
I'm just
It's
saying,
the execution
let's not
from
pretend
behind.
I don't know
that
how
isn't-
other teams can't.
I
get
don't
it as
either,
fast.
but they can't, Bull.
But
No, they
I
can't.
just saw
Philadelphia they found a cheat code.
And it's
unstoppable.
I just watched Buffalo with the biggest, most athletic quarterback in the league lose a game on a 4th and 1 because they couldn't do the tush
You're right.
push.
You're right.
So it's everybody would like to play a certain way, but can you play a certain way? And for me, here's what I know. I just know that when you put your hand in the dirt and there's it's 35 linemen and 8 tight ends with a bruising back there, I know there's a you know what you got to do to stop somebody in the backfield on them plays? I used to always chalk it up. I said, man, I used to think on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2 in my head, when they punted or kicked, I said, boy, we dodged the bullet on this one because we wasn't stopping none of that.
It was incredible.
When you're as a fan, if the other team is 4th and 1 and they punt, you're always like, thank God.
Yes, especially now.
Thank
Especially now.
the Lord because they was getting that.
And the biggest thing, I agree with you, G, and you're right on the money. You know, maybe I don't completely agree that some of these other teams are not trying as hard, but nobody. Well, I guess in the end I do agree because they're not trying as hard as the Chiefs. The Chiefs do always. We're good here. Let's get this guy. He might make a difference. The Chiefs add all these guys who help 0.5%. And it adds up.
I thought it was a mistake that they didn't go after Amari Cooper. But they knew what Cleveland knew. There's nothing left. He's done.
Fell off a cliff.
He fell off an absolute cliff.
They look like they had Hollywood, right? But they went and got Worthy.
Yeah.
It's like we need that speed element. I know we just spent him in free agency. They're like, okay, well, we got Juju Smith-Schuster. Now that's not enough. Let's go get DeAndre Hopkins too, right?
And the weird thing is, one of them
is
likely
something.
to do something mind-blowing in the Super Bowl, and then Andy's going to say, I got him for exactly this moment.
Yeah, right.
DeAndre Hopkins. He's been waiting to have
just
that
sitting there.
monster
And
game.
half of them won't be back next year, and
No.
they'll find other
And they'll
guys.
have new faces and new names, and they'll win again.
As long as they kept them Mahomes and Reed.
And y'all better get home.
That's it.
You talked about the Cavs better have home court advantage. Listen, if y'all want to beat these dudes, you have no chance of going to Arrowhead.
Yep.
You better start playing
And
them games at the end of the season.
The way to beat Philadelphia is you've got to get them off schedule on first down, which is tough because they've got the best running back in the league. But I'm sure Kansas City for the next 2 weeks is going to be looking at one thing. If you're in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 situations against them all through the game, it's an L.
Yeah.
Because they're going to pick those up. You
game.
need sacks, and Kansas City's got the defense that can get after them. You need a lot of sacks. You need to get them off schedule and behind the sticks, because if they're sitting at 3rd and short and 4th and short all day, you are not touching the Lombardi
As
Trophy.
much as we're sick of, a lot of us, are, myself certainly included, sick of this matchup, I will say you've got two teams. I would say, the Eagles coach has been through the ringer. Obviously, there's a big edge there for the Chiefs at coach. But the rest of the team, you got
the best running back,
the best quarterback
versus
with
the best
Mahomes
running back.
versus a good quarterback in Hurts. You got the best running back with the Chiefs. Both teams can run the
Where's
ball.
Philly
Both
ranked
teams can throw the
defensively?
ball.
Number 1, right?
Both teams are good defensively. Both teams, a part of why they won yesterday, both teams is because they got more pressure on the quarterback than the other team did.
And two really good offensive line.
Boy, Washington.
A lot of
spit
good
it out,
stories,
didn't they?
yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
Double
they
nickel
came back
in
to
a
earth.
championship game is tough.
Now, look, they gave them 28 or 21 points with short
Yeah,
fields and turnovers, but they got 28 off turnovers.
Hey, listen, if you're
But Philly cashed in on it.
If you're a Commanders fan, and I know you never know if you're going to get back there again, you can't be that.
Great season.
You're disappointed in the way it ended. If you're a Buffalo fan, you're like it's,
Crushed.
Yeah,
Here we are again.
As a Washington fan, you got to be like, well, we had
House
an
money.
amazing
We'll be
season,
back
you know.
five times in the next 10 years.
yeah.
Buffalo's sick.
Yeah,
Buffalo is sick.
It's tough.
They're
All right,
doing
guys,
some
let's
soul
talk a
searching
little
today.
bit about some Brown-specific stuff after a quick word from Game Time. If you want to get into the Super Bowl, it's quite the ticket, and on Game Time it makes it a little more palatable. But, Ant, what is the cheapest get-in price to the Super Bowl right now?
$4,619.
With Game Time, You can find the best deals online with Game Time Picks because it filters out the fluff, showing you only the best deals on the best seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying your tickets online with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Bull?
Game time.
So over the weekend, members of the Browns staff reportedly went down to meet with Shedeur Sanders at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Andrew Berry was part of the contingency that met with Shedeur Sanders. Two-part question, guys. Oh, also worth mentioning, Shedeur is not practicing or throwing at the Shrine Bowl, just doing interviews. Reports say he has been asked by teams in the top 3 not to participate, just to do interviews. G, how important are these pre-draft interviews for top prospects, especially quarterbacks? And B, any issue with Shedeur not participating in the East-West Shrine Bowl, just going down there to conduct interviews?
He's smart not to participate. I wouldn't listen. You're a guaranteed number 1, number 2 pick. There's nothing really that you can do but hurt your stock. I mean, I think the teams probably told him, no, don't practice, don't be playing, just do interviews.
Why would the teams tell him not to practice?
Why would?
Well, they don't want to get him. They don't want him to get hurt. They're planning. One of these top 3 they're planning on drafting him.
No, but practicing, he's not going to get hurt in practice. I mean, that seems.
You never know.
It
happens.
You never know.
It happens.
guess
I saw
so.
Deshaun Watson tear his Achilles on a non-contact, simple scramble.
Right.
I saw Deshaun Watson tear his Achilles going into the trunk of his car.
Allegedly.
Whatever
Allegedly.
the hell
See,
he was
this
doing
is
was
why.
knock
This
his
is
girlfriend.
why you're not on the Christmas list. This is why.
That is.
No, but here's the thing. I like this a lot because it makes it makes the Browns seem like they are adult professionals. There's a lot of stuff going around and people saying, oh, Prime ain't going to let his son come there. He ain't going to let this. They ain't going to let that. They ain't going to let this. When you're an organization and you in the NFL and you are one of the 32 teams and really a team that needs a quarterback, there's no way, shape, or form that you can let outside noise like that deter you from going to do your due diligence on every single player. I don't care what somebody's dad say. At that point in time, one of the things that is going to have to evolve, and it will evolve, is at some point in time, Shedeur Sanders has to be his own man. He has to be his own advocate. You can get advice from anybody, but unlike a lot of people, when you go to college and you start to play the game, your father just looks on because, he may have coached you when you're younger, but now he's looking at it as a fan and a guy that just wants the best for you. So Shedeur Sanders, he's going to get that, and he's probably going through that point right now with Coach Prime. Now, here's the thing. You could say, oh, they're a dumpster fire in Cleveland. Is Shedeur really going to come here? They're going to let him. It's a funny thing how when somebody says to you, hey, it don't matter what the past was. If somebody like you, they don't care. Why? My wife really don't care if I got a divorce, right, if she liked me. She's like, okay, well, did you hurt somebody? Do you got any felonies? Was you abusive? None of that. I really don't care why the relationship ended. All that matters is how you treat me. So if the Browns come into the situation and say, look, we had Deshaun Watson. It was a dumpster fire. It didn't really work. Here's some things we did wrong. Here's some things we could work on. But I'm going to tell you something. We got faith in you and your skill set, and you are different. You can turn it around. We are choosing you. It's funny how when somebody says they are choosing you, how that changes your mindset on whether or not it's a dumpster fire or not, because that go out the window when people start to develop and understand a relationship, and that's what these guys are doing. They're trying to go and start a relationship to see where this guy's head is at and to figure out if we can work together in something.
They are. That's a great point, but here's my concern on that, G. If you're picking first or second, you were a dumpster fire last year.
Yes.
That's pretty much a fact. You were a dumpster fire. Mm-hmm. You won 2 or 3 games, and you were at the bottom of the league's talent cycle. Mm-hmm. This is what would give me pause as a player. If I'm sitting alone with my thoughts and I'm saying, okay, if I had my pick.
Right.
Tennessee was a playoff team as a regular playoff team not that long ago.
Right.
I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns saying they built a new stadium in 1999 and they've never played a playoff game in it.
Yep.
Think about that.
Yep.
That's not a short-term dumpster fire, like you're supposed to be, everybody in the league is supposed to spend time at the bottom of the talent cycle and the top. That's the way it's set up. But because of front offices, some teams, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, New England's before, tend to be at the top for way too long and never at the bottom. And other teams, and we know which teams those are, Jacksonville, Cleveland, before this year, Detroit, for some reason live down in the gutter. And if I'm a number 1 draft pick coming out, I'm hoping like hell Tennessee calls my name and not Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. Make no bones about it. They got work to do. And anybody that would be at the top of the draft should have pause. I'm not saying that he doesn't. But what I am saying is that the Cleveland Browns, by talking and communicating, I think there's ways that they can assure him or build a relationship where he's
and he'll listen. But you know what he's thinking? I hope Tennessee feels the same way.
I disagree. I don't think. To me, they maybe it's cool to pick on the Browns nationally. I get it, and they've been a dumpster fire. Tennessee's not a good organization either.
Well,
the Browns have been to the playoffs more recently than Tennessee.
Well, the Browns have never hosted a playoff game in this stadium.
I understand that. How many home games has Tennessee had in the playoffs?
Right now, they are where? At the bottom of the talent cycle. Yeah. Of course they are. They're picking first. What I'm saying is...
But you just said the Titans have won recently. The Browns have been to the playoffs more recently than the Titans.
Okay, so that's one example, but there was a stretch, 2 stretches, going back to before the Browns came in, that Tennessee was in the playoffs multiple years in a row. Cleveland hasn't proven they can do that.
That was so many years ago. Who cares at this point?
But what it is it speaks to a culture. Kansas City has a culture. Yeah. When you're traded to Kansas City, you walk through that front door like you have an S on your chest.
Tennessee doesn't have a culture.
No, I'm not saying they do. Yeah. But if you're juxtaposing the two,
I don't buy
nobody beats Cleveland in terms of bad culture.
I think more than the culture thing, I think how they've done with quarterbacks. There was a perception out there that Baker Mayfield was done wrong to a certain segment of population. They feel like the situation with Deshaun Watson was a dumpster fire. So I think when you look at it in totality, I think that there's other things with quarterbacks that haven't done well.
The Browns, besides Baker, there's no other quarterback that you could say, well, this guy was good other places. Who? There's nobody else.
Well, no.
I don't think he's saying good other places.
I mean, Watson was, but that was before he got
but stunted what they could have been.
It's been a dumpster fire for quarterbacks.
Well, if you're the number one, and obviously there's you want to be the number 1 pick because you want to be the number 1 pick. But if all things were equal, and you would ask Shedeur or even his advisor, Dion, where would you most like to see your son go?
Yeah.
Can anyone make an argument for this is the place to be?
Probably not. I could just give you my opinion.
And that's what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
What I'm saying.
I just don't think Tennessee's obviously been a better organization than Cleveland, but I still think of them as a bad organization.
Listen, Bull, they are. Last year they were a dumpster fire.
All the teams that may draft Shedeur Sanders are bad organizations.
I feel like what happened in Tennessee was an owner took over that thought she knew how to put a winner on the field. And she thought that might not necessarily include Mike Vrabel. I also know that recently, Mike Vrabel was the pick candidate to go take the job in New England. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go do Bill Belichick work there.
Right.
But I think that Mike Vrabel is looked at in NFL circles as a guy that knows how to win. He's going to bring a winning culture.
Right, but they did flop in the playoffs a bunch of
in
times.
Tennessee. But the owner came in and she said, I want co-head coaches.
Yeah, wow.
And she did a lot of other things that aren't even public.
Dang, wow.
That people within the organization.
So why would people look at them highly?
Well, here's what I'm saying. Yeah. Right now, that's their recent history. If I'm going there, there's also great pause that she's going to continue to screw things up there. They had a pretty good thing going, and then for some reason she wanted to run Mike Vrabel.
To be fair, and I wouldn't have fired Mike Vrabel, he was trending down.
Well, things that she was doing within the organization that aren't exactly out in the domain that people that were there know what was going on gave people in the organization real concern.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so then why would Tennessee be the better place to be?
If you're comparing the two.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is better.
You're just looking
the perception.
Number one, I'll throw this out there. Tennessee does not have a state income tax. That matters to these guys. I've talked to NFL players when they make their list of potential free agent places. They want Nashville, they want Miami, they want Jacksonville, they want Tampa. They want Texas.
Okay, but that's not why we can't. We're
No,
going to debate that for.
We're just gonna start piling up things.
Right.
Now, is either organization a model organization? Of course not.
Yeah. No.
At this point, you're saying which is the worst destination for me? I don't know how anybody can tell me that Cleveland isn't the worst.
But I think if you're a winner and you think you're special, then you should be able to turn any team into a winner.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I am
Young
saying,
and naive.
People were saying Joe Burrow shouldn't go to Cincinnati. How many people said that at the time?
Well, Joe Burrow really didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Joe Burrow wasn't going to be drafted professionally in another sport, and he didn't make a ton of money at LSU.
You, but there was still a lot of people writing articles. He should refuse to go to the Bengals, even if we think it's stupid. There was a lot of people writing that. And what did he say? No, I'm going to go.
And I love that attitude. And by the way, I also loved his answer. How long is Cincinnati going to be a super? Is this window open?
Yeah.
As long as I'm here. I love that attitude, Bull. I do. I love it.
Yeah.
But in certain situations, it can be a little naive. A player can be naive.
Well, here's what I'll give Shedeur.
CeCe said when he was 19, he thought he should have been in the starting rotation for the Indians.
I don't think Shedeur Sanders, by any stretch of the imagination, is a finished project. Does he have lots of stuff he needs to work on? Sure. But the one thing that I will give him credit for, that this has never happened. There has never been a quarterback who left a HBCU. Let me tell you something. When you look at HBCU programs and how many
Steve McNair came from an HBCU.
Yes, but here's the thing. He stayed at a HBCU.
Right.
Shedeur Sanders is the first dude to come from an HBCU squad to go Division I, major Division I, to a team that had nobody. I think they won one win in Colorado the year prior, or no wins the year prior. He gets there and immediately from HBCU throws for almost 4,000 yards. That's unheard of. Then he comes back, and then he's on the Heisman list all year. He comes back and he throws for 4,000 yards again. And then the only two players they got, the only two cats they got three players. They got Travis Hunter. They got Shedeur Sanders and Jimmy Horn. And Jimmy Horn Jr. was hurt the whole season. They had two players, and they got 9 wins with 2 people from HBCU schools. That's crazy. That shows me that he has the competitive nature. That shows me the spotlight ain't too big. And it shows me that, yes, his dad is Coach Prime, but he's not going to be intimidated if he go to New York, and he probably won't be intimidated if he come to Cleveland. I think that's just what he's built on. Now, the question is he good enough? That's just all it comes down to. Because if he's good enough, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do. Because all it takes is the owner to fall in love with him, and he won't give a damn what he talking about.
Unless Tennessee's owner falls in love with him.
Yes, and that's the point. The Browns did a great job. If you don't like Shedeur, you better make sure they think you like Shedeur. Because if you don't like him, the Giants or somebody else gotta love him. And if they love him, I need them picks. I need that compensation. They better act like they taking this man at all costs. Because the thing I know about guys in this season, if that owner or the owner's family or the owner, that you don't think that the general manager from the Giants, when they asked him, "Hey Dad, you should be taking Jaden Daniels," you don't think that's ringing in his head all year round?
Sure.
Jaden Daniels gonna move a lot of people up.
I saw another video this morning where they were talking about not re-signing Saquon Barkley. That comes off pretty funny.
That looked kind of crazy too.
But yeah, I mean, I think in the end, maybe Jason said this on Friday. I can't remember who said it, but if the Browns have the chance at Shedeur Sanders and they think he's going to be a great quarterback, they got to draft him. And the rest is nothing.
And if they think Cam Ward is that guy.
Yeah, whatever. Whoever they think.
Then they should be talking to the Tennessee Titans about why they need the number 1 pick. If they feel that strongly about it. Because here's the thing.
Especially if it's not close between the two.
Yes.
If they think it's negligible, the difference, then they can live with the number 2. But if they think one of them is a winner and the other one is Ryan Leaf, then, yeah, you better call Tennessee and say, what do you need from us?
And hope Tennessee doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there is also a world where Tennessee says, nope, he's our guy, and we're taking him.
Yeah, well, Tennessee is not going to know who they'd be trading up for necessarily.
Yeah, you would have to tell them. Remember, who was we talking about it? Like when they do these trades, don't they have to tell them who the guy is that they want to draft?
No. That's covert stuff.
Man.
No, you can,
That's
and you could lie. Gee, I could call you, and be like, hey.
Of course you can lie.
We need
They
Travis
do.
Hunter at 1. We can't afford any team getting up Travis Hunter, and then you move up to 1, take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. Like, there's no binding agreement.
That's
on
There's
dirty.
no rules.
I
draft
want
war.
an NBA trade then. I'm gonna pick my guy, then I'll trade after the fact.
Well, listen, you could do that too. If you knew that
I want him that.
the teams at 3, 4, or 5 were in love with a certain guy, then you might just talk to them before the draft and say, look, we might take him. If we take him, what kind of compensation would you give us? Then you go to team number 4 and say, we might take him. What kind of package are you going to put together? Go to 5. We're going to take him. What kind of package? Then you look at 3 or 4 packages. Then you can say, well, that's the trade we want to make.
Yeah.
And then you make the best available trade.
I think for all us involved, Shedeur Sanders I want Shedeur Sanders to have the best offseason in his life.
Well,
Both of them. I want them to be smart.
Helps us.
I want that background check to come back clean. I want no injuries. I want them to both be almost 6'3".
You're not getting that part, G.
Yeah, I don't know if we
Unless
can help you on
measured in
that.
high heels, you ain't getting the 6'3"
Hey,
part.
put them Timberlands on. Listen, I'm not having them play. Because listen, if you get the Giants, we already know what it is. Giants, you need a quarterback. You just do. The Raiders, come on, you need a splash pick. Saints. You got that nice little.
Yeah, but what you're leaving out is the Browns do too.
I know.
Yes.
It's a dangerous game
It
to
is
play.
a dangerous game.
Because if they pass on one of these dudes and they are great, and the NFL is great about jumping on it early. Look at Shedeur Sanders in New York.
You know, on that. Well, here's what I would love to see NFL films do, and the league. They've peeled back the curtain and they've given unfettered access during some of the, an in-season look at the AFC North this year.
They're not doing an off-season one. The Giants was a one and done.
Yeah, I know. But here's what I would love.
I would
love is draft day, the movie reality.
Yeah.
So you put film crews in every team's draft room,
man,
and you put together a 2-hour feature film or 8 hours, 4 parts. It would be great if
it was uncensored.
You'd have to get the real stuff. Now the beauty about that is, it's all stuff that once it's out, it's out.
It's out.
It doesn't
don't matter.
Like,
well,
you
but
wouldn't
if it
want
makes somebody
in,
look bad.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Obviously, the teams before they gave all of that would say, "Look, we have to have some sort of veto on some of this stuff."
Right, but that's the problem with all these vetoes.
It is, but you're never going to get it otherwise.
No.
I think it would be a fascinating peel behind the curtain to see these phone calls, to hear what guys are saying. There might be some bruised feelings.
Yep.
And it might even create a situation where the Browns say Shedeur Sanders cannot play, and we know that. And then Shedeur Sanders goes to Pittsburgh and goes 22-0 against us in his first 11 seasons, like Ben Roethlisberger.
What is your feeling? All right, so it's number 2. They go ahead and pick in. What is your feeling that most people in Cleveland would say if it is Shedeur Sanders?
Here's what I can guarantee you: no matter what they do, it'll be split. Guaranteed.
Yeah,
we are the
50-50.
most divided fan base I've ever seen.
That is, I agree.
And I don't know that anybody can argue against that. And here's how I know. Look at the flashpoints that we've had the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Baker was a flashpoint. Odell Beckham was a flashpoint. The decision to go for Deshaun Watson, and then
crazy.
whether or not he could play.
Right.
It's like our fan
Every
base
year.
is cannibalizing ourselves.
Johnny
Manziel was a flashpoint.
I think any fan base in those scenarios would have been the same thing.
Bull, I thought about that.
Yeah.
Any perpetual losing fan base. Like, if you're the Bills this morning, you're arguing against some play calling decisions.
Right.
Okay? If you're the Chiefs, what the hell's your flashpoint the last decade?
Right.
So the reason we're the most divided fan base in sports is because there is a very valid argument to be made that of all of the professional sports teams that call the United States of America home, we are the biggest dumpster fire.
And do you believe?
And that leads to dissension. A family that's got problems tears apart. A family that has no problems stays together.
Do you think that if what the media would, like, when we got Odell Beckham Jr., they put us on TV every week. When we got Baker Mayfield, we were like, he was like, do you think Shedeur Sanders moves the needle?
Yes.
Will it be bigger than all the other stuff we talked about with Manziel, OBJ, or do you think it's just...
Here's what I worry about long term.
Okay.
Let's say we go for Shedeur.
Okay.
and let's say they start 0-3 and he's got 6 picks and 1 touchdown. How's that going to go? That's why I talk about culture. You better get somebody in here that reverses this culture soon. Because every year the culture remains bad, it gets harder to change the narrative. So we're just waiting. And I don't care if it's Shedeur or Cam.
Yeah.
If Cam comes in here, there's going to be a 50% Cam fan base
Yeah,
and
is.
a 50% I hate Cam base.
There is.
And whenever
You're
they
right.
win, the Cam fan base is going to say, I told y'all. And then as soon as he falls on his face, this portion is going to be most vocal, and they're going to say,
Winning.
Here we are again. I told you.
Winning
Hey, he
changes
right.
culture.
Winning changes
Yeah.
all of that. And
Yeah.
you know what?
He right on that.
It's kind of like a chicken or an egg deal.
Yeah.
But in this case, I can tell you definitively, you cannot win until you change the culture. The culture never changes because you're winning now. Look at Detroit. Dan Campbell came in there and changed the culture. Look at D.C. Dan Quinn came in there and changed the culture. Different message, different voice, different feel to the
But
building.
nobody was saying last year that the Browns had a bad culture.
No, but Bull, can you can you argue that just winning all of a sudden turns the culture around? It's changing the culture internally that leads to winning. The narrative in 18 was, this feels different. John Dorsey, this crew, this feels different. The culture's changing. Jarvis Landry came in and said, it's a culture thing, guys.
Yeah.
And it changes now. And all of a sudden, the wins started happening.
But I think before this year, we would have said the culture has changed.
We did.
We did. We thought it had.
We did. But that's why it's so devastating to get 3 wins, because 3 wins, on culture alone,
it should never have happened.
The Steelers on culture alone is never going.
They're going to give you 8 wins a year on culture.
Get them just on that.
And the talent will add in 9, 10, 11, 12,
but then
whatever.
again, for years, you thought the Giants had a great culture. Same ownership.
It comes and goes.
Yeah, I get that. But in some places, it goes forever. And in other places, it's there forever. And I feel like in Kansas City, it's a perfect example of it's just
Packers. Packers ain't never trash.
Green Bay, New England before the post-Belichick or really post-Brady years.
Yeah,
it's just you got to win. Winning fixes everything.
That is it. All right, last stop of the day, real quick. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We mentioned it earlier. Cavs got the Pistons tonight. Jay, you mentioned you don't want to lose to JB factor as I look to snap a 3-game losing skid. It is kind of ironic, maybe is not the perfect word, but it's the one that came to mind. The 2 of the 3 favorites for the NBA Coach of the Year award right now are Kenny Atkinson, who's a minus 400 favorite, and then JB, the coach of the Pistons, is now 3rd at plus 450. A big gap. Kenny's still the prohibitive favorite, but...
By the way, it tells you how fraudulent Coach of the Year award is that JB would be up for it, because they're mediocre. I know they were terrible last year.
But you're taking into
they were
account,
mediocre.
Yeah, but you have to take into account what they were the year before.
I understand that.
They were all
so
time
let's stop calling it the Coach of the Year. Let's call it the most improved team of the year.
It's still, you're giving it to the coach.
Andy Reid, Kevin Stefanski.
It's like that in every sport. Baseball,
I know that.
Football,
Kevin Stefanski
everything.
should have not won Coach of the Year those 2 years. Andy Reid should win it every year.
And Belichick should have won it every year.
Yes.
But there was an anti-Belichick. He never won it.
Right. This is absurd.
Listen, it happens when you do a job and you turn around something with no expectations. There's going to be a bigger move of the needle.
That's true.
I hear
than
you.
when you.
But the Coach of the Year odds right now are meaningless. The Pistons are only a game over 500. They could still easily finish 30 and 50.
No, but we know this. We're sitting in January, and they're going to win more games this year than they did all
I know,
of last
but if they
year.
finish 30 and 50, who cares?
Well,
it's still doubling their win total.
Who cares, though?
I'm just saying.
30 wins.
The thought today, and that's what they're setting these odds on.
Yeah.
Of course, all odds are stupid. You know, they're setting odds. What difference does it make? None. They're trying to steal your money. But you're basically saying at this point, as you look at the NBA,
they could be a playoff team.
The coaches that have done the best job, and in the Cavs case, they were already a second-tier playoff team last year. They made it to the second round.
Right.
In Detroit's case, it was easy to look at them and say, oh, my God, this is an absolute mess. And JB came in there, and they're above 500 as we're turned into February. And I mean, I think he's done a great job. I do, and I think he should be mentioned
Where are they,
in the top 3 or 4 candidates.
Where are they at, like, if the playoff in the seeding?
They would be
Right at the end.
they'd be the 6th seed, not even in the play.
Yeah, but no, Mike, that's a little misleading.
Hey, I got to give it to
because
him.
6 through 9 in the East are like a game apart.
No, I know. He asked.
What do you want me to do? I'm telling you exactly
make
what
it
they're
up.
at.
Misleading. Would you? I mean,
They're
it's
I
not
didn't
like
say
there's some
they're somewhere
legitimate
between
6 seed. They're a
14
game
and
over
1.
500.
Well, here's the thing.
Yes, where they're at today, I'm telling you right now, they're the 6th seed.
That's not a lie.
You can only be where you're at.
That's it.
That's the only thing.
You are
They
what
have
your
no
record
chance
says
of
you
winning.
are.
Mike, they got no shot of winning a playoff series. True.
True.
But
Yeah, I would be highly shocked if they won a
that's
playoff
not
series.
that's not where their trajectory is. They won like 12 games last year. If you go from 12 games to making the playoffs in a year, that's like saying
Everybody makes the playoffs. It's the NBA.
I just talked
You got
about
20
it. I
teams
just
in the
talked about the
playoffs.
importance of culture.
Yeah.
And what was rotten in Detroit last year was their culture.
Right.
And what changed from the day they hired JB was the culture. And that's part of it. The winning will follow that. They're not an NBA playoff.
We hated JB here. Now he's a culture changer.
We all said this is kind
He's
of
a starter
shame.
coach.
Yeah.
He's taken this team as far as he can.
Right.
That's his ceiling. However, we also said at the same time, if you've got a young team,
right,
and you're looking for the guy to be the architect and the navigator of the turnaround, he's the guy.
It's a difference between being a second grade teacher and a high school English teacher.
Yeah.
Like your teacher do two different things. Like when you're a second grade, you just want them to get the basics. Hey, here's how you cut
you
with
use your
scissors.
baby talk voice.
Listen, here's how you color within the lines. Here's how you learn to play well with others. When you're in high school, you're trying to get them ready for college. It's a different learning
and
curve.
let me sum up. G and J are advocating Coach of the Year votes to a guy who they say is a shitty coach.
I never said he was a shitty coach.
You're saying he's a shitty coach.
No.
You're saying he's a starter coach.
No.
He can't win.
What
You're
I
saying he's shitty.
I never used the word shitty. That was your word.
I know that. You didn't
let
say
me
it.
characterize my own thoughts, and then I'll let G.
Characterize.
Here's who I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he has limitations that are exposed when you get in playoff series where matchups become it.
Yes. And that's an insult.
That is an insult.
Yes.
Now, I'm also going to say, if you've got a young team with a couple of pieces that are looking to build and take that next step, I think he's among the best for that situation.
Yeah.
So, he's a coach with limitations. Don't they all have limitations? He's a coach with limitations that I didn't want the coach of my team to have. When I'd see him in playoff series, I'm like, oh my God, the guy's playing checkers and he's getting slaughtered in a game of chess. So, no, I didn't want him here in Cleveland
wouldn't you
anymore.
have just rather the Cavs had hired Kenny Atkinson from the beginning and not Jamie?
No, because maybe Kenny Atkinson isn't that guy.
He was with the Nets.
It's one of them things. How many startup companies do you see? You see a lot of people that are great at starting something from the ground up.
That's right.
And finding a niche in the market, maybe it's tech or different things. And you know what they do? They get it to a point where it's growing, and then the big money guys come in.
Right.
They infuse it with cash. They get them ready to
Take
go
it to the next
and
level.
take it to the next level. Everybody has a role. And look, JB is really good at being a communicator and building relationships
Pistons
with
fans
young
what
people.
they think of JB.
But G, unfortunately, in this country, unlike any other country in the world, we dissuade people from doing startups because our health care is tied to our job, which doesn't happen anywhere else. It's a disgrace. It's the worst thing about America, and we must correct it.
Real quick,
Insurance companies are evil.
That took a hard right. Like, I didn't see that coming.
Did I say anything that was not true?
Real quick.
But I wanted to connect. I wanted the analogy connection. I didn't see it. Go ahead, man.
Atkinson still minus 400 in Coach of the Year. As of today, he still wins the award, right?
Yes.
JB's cool story. It's still Atkinson's award.
I would vote for the guy in Houston, personally.
He's
Udoka.
probably second.
He's fourth. The OKC coach is second.
I like his job
right.
too.
That's right.
I like
All
his job. Yeah.
Super chats. First one comes from Salvatore the 216 who says, G telling the Cavs they need an attitude adjustment after how we just poo-pooed our best opponent is crazy. By the way, G, I use Minimoski now in my daily lingo.
There it is.
By the way,
You did poo-poo Houston.
By the way,
Oh, yeah, I
G
did.
shat on Houston and on Oklahoma City.
I did too.
But that doesn't matter. G is not a member of the team. He's not a member of the coaching staff. We, as media members or fans, can take whoever we want lightly. It's irrelevant what we take lightly.
Hey, I'm just putting barometers out there. Yeah. If they showed up and answered the bell, I would have been right. They didn't answer the bell, so now I had to come back and say SGA is not a supermarket. He's actually good.
All right, next super chat comes from
MVP?
KW.
Yeah.
Next one's from KW Outdoors. I now hate that Şengün character for the Rockets.
I do too, man.
Listen,
Dirty player. Where's Marcus Morris? I'd give him a call. We also need to give Imani some time.
I'm fine with that as long as we all admit we'd love him to be on our team.
He is the cousin of the Wagners.
But we
I
love
looked
him
at
on
their
our
family
team.
tree.
Yes.
He is in. Listen, I saw them hanging out.
They share DNA.
At a family reunion. I'm telling you.
Would you not want him on this team?
Oh,
Love him. I'd take him in a
100%.
heartbeat.
He's awesome.
But as an opponent, I can't stand
And by the way,
him.
if he were on our team, nobody would admit that he was dirty.
Oh, we
pretend he was.
He'd be the new Mozgov.
Next up, Salvatore the
that would be
216 says, we need goons. What do you guys think about Nurkic as a backup? His stock's down around the NBA. The Suns hate him, so maybe we'd get him on the low.
I wouldn't mind taking that.
Yeah, you would. He's has the most untradeable, worst contract in basketball. G.
Oh,
He's
how much money
unplayable.
are you making?
No. He makes $20 million next year. He'd be second apron tax for a guy that literally cannot play on Phoenix.
I'm sorry.
Not a chance.
I'm sorry.
Not a
I
chance.
talked to my financial advisor, and I can't invest $10,000 in this fake crypto thing.
Not a chance.
I'm sorry.
He's unplayable. The Suns have
What
traded
about
for 2
healthcare?
centers just so he can sit on the bench.
I'm hoping Tegna comes around.
Terrible.
2 more. Chris Fox says, I got CC and Cliff Lee's autograph when I played RBI. And Dontavius Winston says, it's funny how people are mad about Hunt, but Kansas City has the best coach quarterback, but swear Hunt would be doing the same thing behind worse quarterback play and offensive line. Move on.
No, he would not be doing the same thing here.
No, he's not. No one would be getting money off.
He's in the right spot for him.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
Cleveland was the wrong spot for him.
Yes.
All right, we'll see you guys in overtime. Talking Jim Knowles.
Peace.